Random Shay, Storm, Courtney, Haichu Hero, Mexican Hitman, Mr. Goat, Juke Pasta, Aaron McCary, Hilum, Kel Grace, Miranda, Logan, Caroline, Sempans, Ryan, Lucy, Venikins Art, Derpy Soy, Natalie, Sean, Ferrari. Whole crew's here, guys. Good people. Good people. Thank you so much. He paused the music jam to come here. I appreciate that, Kat. That's very kind of you. Julie, hello from Scotland. Hello from America, my friend. Ryan, I am doing good today. I am, as you can probably hear, maybe a little bit. I hope, let me know if the audio's good as usual. Just want to make sure. So here's my normal talking to chat voice. And here's my narration voice as we get into it. Let me know if that all sounds okay, because I noticed when I was doing a little bit of testing before we started, it was it required a little bit of okay, audio's good. Yeah, it required me to turn it up a little bit. It sounds deeper, my voice. I am sick, but it doesn't mean I can't come hang out with you guys. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's the nasally aspect. As long as the audio itself doesn't sound like distorted or anything, or peaking and whatnot, and it's working out okay. I hope that everything sounds okay, because sometimes that's the difficult part with audio stuff, is you can't really tell what it sounds like until you check it out later. I guess I could like load up the stream on my phone and listen, but I'll ask you that. Do links work when we donate to PayPal? You know, I'm not sure, to be honest, with PayPal. I don't know if that's something that shows up later. But if you were to donate, because I guess what do we have? The Super Chat, which is YouTube's kind of built-in thing. Then you have Streamlabs, which is I believe takes PayPal or utilizes PayPal and then would show up. So you could maybe try that. But doing directly to PayPal, I am not certain. But if you were to donate, obviously let me know so I can get you the appropriate story queued up and ready to rock. But yeah, we'll be sure to address that as soon as it gets going. AF Jeezy says they are here in the house. Have I ever seen a spirit? Asked Sempants. I don't know. You never know. Isabel Meyer with the $6. Thank you, Isabel. Did you have a story that you would like to hear? Can't have the sound up because of work. Okay. Mish Cutie Pie, I'm really sorry about that. I hope at the very least be able to check the stream out later. Cashy is here. The big mod Cashy in the house. Thank you, Cashy, for coming to make sure I don't destroy people's ears and the various likes of that. Celine Ruiz says, did Eric ever find his girl? Is Eric in the house right now? Did we ever get Eric a girl? Because if people wanted to know the quickest way to my heart is, first you have to go through my buffer zone known as Eric. And he is number one before before getting to me here. It's like the series of Zelda bosses of who you gotta date. No, I'm just kidding. Isabella says, anything, just love your stuff. Oh, absolutely, Isabella. I will, I'm gonna cue you up here on the up next technological sticky note. Nick Lopez with the $2 says, always listen to you while working. Thank you, bro. Nick, thank you. I appreciate it. And I appreciate you donating. And I hope everything's going well at work. Guys, Let's start off with a story just to break right into it because that's what you're here for, and then I'll talk about some exciting news going forward. You may have seen it here in the title. To clarify, I'm a 20-year-old female and live in England. This happened back when I was about 14 to 15 and lived in Hungary. I'd go to school about an hour away from where I lived, taking 2 different buses. This particular morning our bus broke down and all of us had to get off and wait for a different one. I was listening to music on my phone and, as I usually did at the time, I was getting off the bus and walked away from people a bit as I like to be isolated as possible. I see this guy must have been in his 50s. He was white, bald, and scruffy, maybe even homeless. I took a step toward the crowd in case he wanted to ask for money. I wouldn't be his target. I see another bus coming and I make my way into the center of the crowd to make sure I can get on the bus when it gets here. The stranger follows me, leans on the wall, uncomfortably close to me and looks over my shoulder. I struggle on the bus, no luck getting a seat. I see him getting on too, trying to find me. He moves next to me once again. I can feel his stare and I'm starting to panic. I'm a naturally very paranoid person with anxiety too, so I tried to calm myself down, saying that the bus is very packed and that's why he's so close. We arrive to a stop and a few people get off, so I move to the back of the bus looking for a seat still, but some old lady took it, so I had to stand. A few minutes pass and I realize that the bald guy is once again right behind me looking over my shoulder. I start to feel even more uneasy and at this point, certain that he's following me. I finally get off the bus and try to hide in the crowd, but at the same time trying to see if he's following me. I didn't see him, so I felt relieved, thinking I was way too paranoid as usual. I see my other bus in the distance, but as I'm looking around, I saw him a few meters away. He seemed like he was looking for someone, so I quickly hide behind a few people almost crouching. The bus arrives and I sneak on it still crouching. I decided to stay like that until the doors close, keeping an eye out for the stranger who is still looking for me. He runs for the doors closest to me and I'm shaking, but luckily for me, they shut before he could get on. I stand up and stare right into his eyes as he stares back into my soul. Oh boy. Yeah, I hope that sounded alright as far as quality goes. Cashy was right into a big donation. She says, "Oh my effing god, your stream sucks." Thank you, Cashy. I appreciate that. Would you like to hear a spooky story, Cashy? Let's Read does upload his streams. They are unlisted but available in his streams playlist. Yeah, so once my streams are done, they usually get automatically uploaded to YouTube, and what I do is go directly to where, if you've uploaded videos before, you have the option to say public or unlisted or private, and basically what I do is I make them unlisted, but I add them to a playlist, the streaming playlist, and that you can access those. It says like gaming, live streams, live readings, or something of that nature, and you can access all the old streams from there. Quite a few hours of content in there if you're ever bored, and a lot of stories. So definitely a good time. How goes the ASMR? The ASMR is okay. I made about 2 videos on there so far. I'm always open to ideas if you guys have any things that, if you're into the ASMR scene. For me, it's really easy to make because I don't have any video, aside from like a still frame or something like that. It's primarily audio, and I usually do it in about 1 take. So, not a lot of editing or process involved compared to what I do here on YouTube with these videos normally. So, no worries as far as that goes. If you have any ideas, I can give them a whirl. If you want me to just sit by my mic and snip scissors like I'm cutting your hair for an hour, hey, let's give it a try. I'm open to ideas. Blake says, where do I find the ASMR? You can find the ASMR on my normal channel, and normally where you might see on the right-hand side where people have featured channels or suggested channels, you'll see where it says ASMR channel, and it's called Let's Read ASMR. Pretty simple, straightforward. And yeah, you can jump on that, and each video so far, one's like 46 minutes, the other is like 50 some minutes, so they're pretty long ASMRs. I know some people only do like 20-minute ASMRs and all that kind of stuff. Let's see here. Venikins with the $2 says, posted a visual idea for the stream and Discord. I am going to check that out. Okay, nice. Yeah. Some jellyfish is going here. Oh, that is a full-on live stream. Wonder if we can actually get that rolling here, Venikins. That'd be pretty neat. So you have to forgive my snot nose. I still am full of congestion a little bit. Let me go to my editor, window capture, properties. There we go. It's pretty funny. Oh, yeah. There it is. There's the jellyfish. That was a great idea. We'll keep that going there until the jellyfish get a little upset about it. It's 100 degrees in Texas. That's scary. It is hot here on the East Coast as well. And it's hot in the room. That's the one difficult thing, is I do not have central air or anything like that. So if I do, I have to do a AC situation, and that really interferes with like background noise when you know. Yeah, it's about 81 degrees here today, and it's a decent one out there. Whoop. Alaskan cat. Okay, there's Alaskan cat. Here's one of my favorite entries from the search and rescue journalists. Let me know if the link doesn't work, and I'll send an email. A search and rescue officer for the U.S. Forest. Okay. Thank you for the 5, by the way. Appreciate that. If you actually want to email that to, and I'll type that into the chat right now, let's read submissions@gmail.com. That would be a lot easier to access to just like quickly click on the link. I saw Kashi had wanted a demon story. So thank you for letting me know that. Thank you, Isabel, for your donation. So Kashi, demon. We'll see what we can find here. Okay. But yeah, guys, while I'm searching for this, I just wanted to mention that exciting news here actually is that my channel will be starting a podcast. Alex Landry with the 20 Canadian says, thanks for all the stories. You keep me busy while I work. Thank you, Alex. Let me know if you have a request. I would love to keep you busy with some more readings while you're at work if you're stuck there. Fangirl says that let's read. Road tripping to Chicago this weekend. Perfect timing for your new podcast to come out. Awesome. Yeah. So guys, I am going to link you guys to the podcast. We'll be talking about it more in today's video we'll be talking about it more because basically I've now kind of through Audio Boom began a podcast that is getting situated with iTunes, which now should be good to go. Eden Winter with the $2 says, fangirl from Los Angeles. That's awesome. I've never been to LA before. I hope to go there for like a con or some Comic-Con or something like that. But yeah, so thank you so much for that. And the podcast, let me get the link real quick. Guys, I'm going to link this down below. It's also... Oh, wow. Stephanie Gonzalez with a huge $50 says, I'm at work, so I can't stay for the stream. Narrator's choice for the story. Absolutely, Stephanie. Thank you so much for that. That was pretty huge. So Alex says narrator's choice, and so does Stephanie. Hope you're having a good time at work. And I'm going to check my Gmail as well for Forest Ranger story that Kat had sent in. So, yeah, guys, the podcast is exciting just because essentially I'm taking a format that, you know, has sort of existed on my channel for quite a while as far as long-form narration and voice, which is pretty common to podcasting. I had some difficulties for a while trying to figure that out. Summer Cat with the $25. You guys are coming hard with the donations right now. This is crazy. Haven't had the time to donate in a while, so I hope this finds you well. Absolutely looking forward to your podcast and further content. Summer Cat, thank you. Yeah, I am very much looking forward to this podcast just to kind of expand the name of Let's Read out there, and most importantly for you guys, which had been a request for a while, is obviously data is not unlimited on everybody's plan, so sometimes utilizing the YouTube app can really take its toll on people's data and battery life. And if they don't have YouTube Premium, used to be YouTube Red, essentially it would kind of, once the screen would turn off on your iPhone or smartphone, it would just, the audio would shut off. So that kind of stinks. This is to an exciting new kind of venture here with the podcast. I hope to post on it weekly, and I will at times post one of the podcasts that I do maybe once a month, and that's what I'm doing here on today's video on Friday here at 7 p.m. So about 2.5 hours from now, we'll be posting that. And essentially what the podcast is it takes all the videos from the week and puts it together in like one big 3-hour, fandango going on there. So that should be sweet. There may be basically Audio Boom, who is helping me with this process and essentially becoming the RSS feed, if you're familiar with podcasts. They're going to help me find advertisers and things like that. Obviously, it's going to be a slow start. I'm not going to have quite the same presence that I have on YouTube as of right now, but the hope is that with time, I will be the new Alex Jones. Just kidding. But it would be cool to get a nice big podcast going and just have a decent branching out of things. And yeah, that should be exciting. All right, guys. Someone's asking me, our good friend here is asking about, played the new Doom Eternal. You waiting for it? Papa Bethesda did not lie. It will be loreful and awesome. So yeah, the new Doom looks great. There's a lot of good games coming out. We got Spider-Man and Red Dead and all sorts of other really cool ones. Kashi with the $10 says, please dedicate a story to Miss Cutie Pie because I accidentally timed her out for 300 seconds. Oh my god. Are you getting sick? Oh, yes. First off, thank you. And sorry about that, Miss Cutie Pie. Thank you for showing Miss Cutie Pie some love there with the donation. I got some stories to read for you guys here. Unfortunately, I started getting sick a few days ago. I live in a college town, and I work with a lot of work with a lot of students that are bringing their invading diseases into the area. And I think my immune system is trash at times, and I just need to take more vitamin C. But just a little bit of sniffles and cough briefly there. But I got this awesome stuff. It's called Buried Treasure. I don't know if you guys have ever had it before. It's on Amazon, and it's like a liquid goop, and you drink it, and it makes your immune system immediately stronger. And it honestly really helps. It has really cut this cold down on what I felt. And yeah, so guys, exciting times with this podcast. There's going to be more news on it on today's video. There's a link down in the description where you can go check that out, and it's going to be a learning process at first, but guys, definitely check that out. It should be a good time, and it should treat your data plan well. So we're going to kick off Kashi's story here related to a demonic experience. And I first need to find one. This looks pretty interesting here. Oh, and it's very short. Sorry. Yeah, thank you for the well wishes, guys. You know how it goes anytime transitioning seasons, because we're going into fall a little bit and new people. Everyone's packed in together with each other, and then you're just like shaking hands, saying, "What up, dog?" And then you just like both lick your hand. Does anyone else do that? Or you spit in your hand, you shake hands. We're just making deals left and right, making sure our tribes are at peace. At first, everything was normal. We went camping with a group of friends, and she was enjoying herself just fine. It wasn't until night that this would come out of her. I've never stayed the night with her before, so I'm not sure if this is new or if this is a regular thing, but here goes. We were already exhausted from running around in the heat, so everybody crashed. There was about 5 of us in one giant tent. I thought everyone had fallen asleep, but after I dozed off, I heard some slapping noises, so I opened my eyes and saw her standing in the corner of the tent, in jumping jack position, but not jumping, raising her arms and slapping her sides really fast. Raising her arms. Her arms looked like sticks that were so stiff. I thought to myself, give her a nightgown and this is something straight out of horror movies. But I didn't realize how right I was at that moment. I chalked it up to needing to get some energy out before bed and kept trying to sleep. A little while later, I hear some really creepy laughter. Didn't even sound like her. I finally woke up and said something to her like, "Dude, what is so funny? What are you laughing about in the dark?" And she didn't answer. To be honest, the laughter sounded a bit like crying as well, so I said, "Are you laughing or are you crying?" And this time she answered. She said, "Both, fucking fuckers." She yelled it, and it was intense. So I asked her if she was alright, and she didn't answer. I was like, okay, I'm just gonna sleep through this now. I'm kind of freaked out. So she did this the entire night. She was later on the ground, legs spread, just slapping herself in the ground and laughing hysterically, yelling fucking fuckers. Weird, right? The next day I told her she really creeped me out, and I tried to ask her what she was doing. She said, "I guess I just had to get it out of me." And I was like, "Alright, well, you're weird, but I still like ya." She seemed okay for most of the day until night again. This time, I saw her switch from herself to this demon. We were walking casually through a festival, just talking and being happy, when all of a sudden, she looks at me extremely intensely and starts speed walking. I thought something happened, so I ran up next to her like, "What's going on?" And she gave me this face I will never forget. Lip corners turned down, eyes like fire. She said, "I'm not listening." I didn't want to lose her in this festival because I felt like she was a danger to herself and possibly to others, so I chased her through the place and tried to get her to sit down. She started to laugh again, that dark, sinister, creepy laugh that turns into a cry, then a laugh again, and stayed very quiet otherwise unless it was to insult me. I tried to make small talk just to see if I could break through whatever she was going through, but she was completely resistant. I finally got her back to camp. When we got there, she sat in a chair all still, just smiling that creepy smile, and then turning down the corners of her mouth, doing the contorted face. Her eyes were intense. She was looking at me like she was going to jump up and choke me. You ever felt someone's hatred and felt like they were going to kill you? Well, I have, and this was it. I felt like at any moment I could be killed by this girl. I said to her, "Girl, what has gotten into you? I'm really creeped out." And she then got on her hands and knees and crawled toward me, smiling like she was thinking about some terrible shit, and then bobbed her head left and right trying to keep eye contact with me. I smiled at her, 'cause I didn't know what else to do, and she smiled back. I shook my head yes, she shook her head yes. I shook no, she did the same. She was now copying me. It was so creepy, you guys. So I finally said, "Look, I don't know how to read you or take you right now, and if you don't stop, I'm going to leave. I'm not going to put up with this much longer." And then the laughter started again. She started tapping her nails on my chair and pushing the little button that makes it recline like she was a maniac. Like fast pulses if movement. It was nuts. I felt like this was some kind of demon trying to rudely play with me. Finally, her boyfriend walks up, and I stood up so fast and just said goodbye. I didn't say anything to him about it, I just left. And now I have these memories that make me cry every time I think about it. If I picture her standing in that tent, my body is covered in goosebumps and tears are running down my face. I'm shook, my dudes. I cried the whole time I typed this. I haven't contacted her yet, but I think she's coming back home today from that camp, and I don't know how to ask her about this. I want to try to get her some help, but I'm also super worried about what will happen if I stoke the fire. I should also add that this girl is in her 30s, so I don't think she was acting. She's too mature to pretend to be possessed. Trust me on this one. Yikes, that would be weird. I was expecting to hear like how exactly things pan out there. Fireheart says, "Unfortunately, I don't have money to donate, but I'm here." Thank you, Fireheart. It's good to see you. And Emily Wyon with $10 says, "Thank you for another awesome stream. You were the best." Thank you, Emily. Thank you. I appreciate that. And I Don't Know donates $5, says, "I like to draw while listening to your stories. You're awesome." Nice. I do. A lot of people like to do that, which is cool. I hope it. Whenever I used to do a lot more art, I would just kind of listen to music to zone out. And whenever I do stuff on Photoshop now for thumbnails and whatnot, I definitely like to put on some music or listen to something to help kind of just zone. But Vannikins with the $2. Ever try Emergen-C? I swear it works. Yeah, vitamin C is amazing, and Emergen-C works wonders. And honestly, there's a lot of it, but basically, you kind of have to keep it flowing through your body. Your body just sort of like, excretes it out. Usually you end up peeing it out through your kidneys and then out your body. But yeah, so the stuff that I use, the Buried Treasure, it's got a ton of vitamin C, which is great. And there's a bunch of other little things that are, sorry, that's the garage door going right now, if you hear that. And yeah, I would highly suggest it. And it really, vitamin C in general is just like the cure for the common cold. And doctors hate it. They don't want you to know about it. Yeah, and B12, yeah. I could honestly go get that stuff and read it to you exactly what's in it. Because actually, let me do that right now. Because I just want you to hear what's in this stuff. And I'm not like sponsored or anything, but I just love using it. So, oh, wow. There's a whole host of stuff here. Buried Treasure. Sorry, that's the garage door again there. Buried Treasure, maybe on Amazon. Isabel, back at it with the $6. Thank you, Isabel. Just joined your Patreon. Thank you so much. True Beach Story. We absolutely can. Thank you, Kashi, for your request for a demon story. I hope that satisfied your tastes. Isabella. Sorry. Beach. Absolutely. I think we can find something here for you. Typed in Buried Treasure and got Jimmy Buffett. Not quite what we were looking for here. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly... This is part of reading, right? We've got to read the ingredients in the back like an episode of Hey Arnold. So, vitamin C, it's got 1,666%. It's got magnesium, zinc, elderberry extract, echinacea, citrus, bioflavonoids complex, white willow bark extract, colden seal extracts, olive leaf, horseradish, marshmallow, thyme, cat's claw, ginger root extract, osha root, usnea lichen, myrrh, andrographis paniculata, rutin, purified silver. So there's a lot of random things going there, but it's all part of the sort of, hippy dippy diet that makes you feel good again. So I'm all about that. Vanessa says you finally got the podcast going. I did. I am excited about that. Just basically get myself out in the podcast world, and you guys can, utilize that for your own benefit here. And you won't get overcharged whenever you're trying to listen to me on a road trip. Tony L. with the $5. Thank you, Tony. Let's read. Big fan of the channel. Can't wait for the podcast, bro. Hope you feeling better. Let's hear a demon story. Absolutely. Yeah, Tony, thanks for joining last stream. I remember seeing you here, donating, hanging out. Appreciate that. Got a demon story coming up for you. So Alex says, narrator's choice. I always enjoy that because it makes it easy on me here. We can find you something good and tasty. This event happened to me when I was 16. I'm 22 now. Some backstory for this story. When I was 16, my anorexia was very severe. I weighed only 92 pounds, I'm 5'4", and would eat only 500 calories a day. I was extremely unhealthy and my overall health was at its low. At the time of this story, I was starting another diet despite having basically no weight to lose and would eat maybe a piece of toast and lettuce a day, and it was affecting my health enormously. This time of the story was during wintertime. During the winter, My family likes to set up the fireplace and sleep all together in the living room. That night was like any other night. My mom, brother, and I were sitting around the fireplace before going to bed. I was getting extremely anxious and restless if I end up being the last one to go to sleep, so I went to sleep first. When I went to sleep, it was around midnight. Oh my goodness. Wow. I just had to stop the story because that is a big boy right there. Wished Wonderland with $100 donation says, "Yay, daytime stories, my soap operas." That's awesome. Wished Wonderland, God bless you. Thank you so much for that. That is huge and incredibly kind. Yeah, for $100, I need to write a story and then read it for you. That is incredible. Wish Wonderland, be sure to let us know. One of the mods here, Kashi, is hanging out. If you would like a story read, obviously. So thank you so much. I'm glad I can be your soap operas here for you, keep you busy during the day, and that's huge. Thank you so much. Thank you. When my family and I sleep in the living room together, it's always my mom sleeping on the couch while my brother and I sleep next to her on the floor. That night, I had a dream, or more of a nightmare, where a dark, lanky shadow was standing behind the couch where my mom was sleeping. At first, I thought that it was trying to hurt my mom, but it suddenly snapped its head towards me. It raised a finger, pointing straight at me, and began to scream. Its scream was ear-piercing, and I was quick to shut my eyes and cover my ears, but as I did so, the screams got louder and higher-pitched, and sounded as if though there were more screaming. It felt as if the screams weren't going to end, but I suddenly woke up, or so I thought I did. I woke up in another dream to see that my brother was awake, and so I asked him the time. He said that it was 2 a.m. I just nodded my head and went back to sleep. Around 5 minutes passed, and I woke up in another dream. In fact, the same dream as earlier. The same thing happened, except my vision was slightly hazy as well. Again, I shut my eyes and covered my ears, and the screams filled my ears. A few minutes passed, and again I woke up in another dream. This time my mom was awake, and I told her that I had a weird nightmare. She responded by saying that it was because I was on. Oh my God. Jesus. Okay. Oh my God. Oh, shoot. Kashi's following suit here. Oh my goodness. With Wished Wonderland with the $100 and says, "Laugh my ass off, shook." I am a little shook. Right now. You guys are like the nicest people I've met. Holy poopy on a stick. That is very kind of you guys. Jeez. Wished Wonderland. Kashi. Man, that is insane. I'm gonna use that money to just go find the cure for the common cold here. We're gonna fund a trip to the rainforest and extract the appropriate plant. Oh boy, okay. Jeez, thank you. Much love. Oh my God, holy crap. Oh my gosh. I don't even know how to respond right now. This is like the greatest competition of all time. Wished Wonderland with $100. My God. If you stop again, this will be the best day ever. I'm kidding. Don't stop telling the story. I'm paying for a service. That's how I look at it. You're one of the best. I could not listen to Five Guys like the restaurant. Oh my gosh. Oh, I had coffee a little while ago, which is not the greatest idea for like being sick because it, like you have to pee and dehydrates you. And my heart is going pretty fast because you guys are kind of blowing me away right now. So I'm holding up my glass of Wawa and I'm cheersing because that's. Oh, thank you very much. Thank you. Wow. Oh boy, She responded by saying that it was because I was on a diet. Surprised that she knew I was on a diet, I just responded with a chuckle and said, "No, I'm not," before going back to bed. This time I woke up for real and checked the time. Only 30 minutes had passed since I went to sleep. I thought this was a little odd, but didn't think that it could be something serious. I never told anyone about this dream because I didn't think it was significant in any way. I also didn't think it was odd because I would frequently get nightmares during that time in my life. It wasn't until years later and after I had fully recovered from my eating disorder that I tell others about this dream. It wasn't until I was in my 3rd year of college that I told a friend about the dream. We were talking about the scariest dream we'd ever had, and I shared that dream with her, because to me that was one of the scariest dreams I've had. As I was telling her the story, she started to tear up. I was so taken aback, and when I asked her why she was crying, she said she had no idea, but she thought it was because the dream was so scary to her. That was when I considered that maybe there was a deeper meaning to the story than I thought. Later that week, I tried looking up the meaning of the dream, but couldn't find anything online that matched. So instead, I told my mom and asked what the dream could have meant. After I told her my dream, she went really quiet. She was silent for a while, and the first thing she said was, "You could have died last night." When she said that, I was shocked. She then explained that the dark figure I saw in my dream was death, and that it appeared in my dream to take me away. But it wasn't able to because my brother and mom were in my dream right after I saw it. She explained that in Korean and Buddhist superstition, when you dream of death, you die. However, if a family member is present in the same dream, that means that they are there to save you. I was speechless and terrified when she told me this. At the time, my health was the lowest of lows due to how severe my eating disorder was. To know that I could have died that night traumatized me. It's been 8 years since that dream and 5 years since I fully recovered from my eating disorder, and I can confidently say that I haven't had a dream of death ever since. Holy shizms. Oh, man. Kashi. Oh, my goodness. What is happening? What is happening? What is happening right now? Kashi with $100 says, "Wish Wonderland, I think I love you." I'm falling in love with you guys right now. And then Wish Wonderland, oh my God, with another 100. Someone said get that rent paid. That's pretty damn true right now. You guys are literally keeping me alive at this point. Rent and groceries. Going right to the grocery store. Oh boy. Okay. Guys, I don't even... Feed Let's Read 2018. Oh my God. I'm gonna just keep... You're gonna keep me going here. Keshi. Wished Wonderland. Oh my God. Jesus Christ. You guys have started a trend that's... Emily Wyan with $100. $100. I feel like I want to help you know how fantastic you are. Oh my God. And then Chavista comes in with the 20. Oh my God, guys. You guys are seriously... Oh. I don't... Oh boy. It's like I don't even... I don't I I don't I don't know I don't know how to like respond because it's very Alex Landry with the $50 jumping on the bandwagon. God, thank you. Oh my goodness. Uh, As I know I sound oh boy. I sound because I've got a cold a little bit, you know, so I'm a little snotty, but you guys are kind of, yeah, blowing me away right now, so God, thank you guys. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Oh man. Yeah, that last story was pretty rough. I can imagine if you're going through an eating disorder, that you probably would be some pretty intense visions and dreams and but yeah, geez Louise, you guys are amazing. I honestly, one of the kindest like communities in the YouTube realm is seriously got to be the horror community and the horror narration community. And my goodness, thank you so much. I'm honestly so glad that like obviously my voice is a little bit off today because of the sickness, but the fact that I'm able to help people sleep or relax or just enjoy life to the point that they can equate it to this amount of value of their life, that is incredible to me, and I can't thank you guys enough for that. Holy cow. Thank you. So up next, I don't even know how to segue to that, honestly. Did I? Yeah, I'm not even sure if that was Alex's story, but I'm just gonna read another one. We're just gonna keep reading, guys. You guys are keep me going here. My name is Kaylee and I'm 20 years old. However, I was about 14 when this event happened. I've been wanting to tell this story, but I hate thinking about what happened. It still terrifies me. My apologies if the story is long. Growing up, I was and still am very religious, so I was always skeptical of anything paranormal. Although after this event happened, I now believe that we are not alone when we think we are. My parents owned about 3 rental houses at the time. They always made sure my brother and I had a part in keeping these rentals looking their best. My brother got the easy job of mowing the lawn and keeping the outside looking good whenever there wasn't anyone occupying the house. My job was to go in and clean after that person moved out, getting it ready for the new renters and such. Static Rabbit. I can't go crazy, but I'm down with the cold right now, and I have to so listening to you. It always helps me to get me focused. Hey, I'm right there with you with the cold, and don't even, yeah, guys, honestly, the generosity is actually almost kind of overwhelming, So, and thank you so much, Static Rabbit. I really appreciate that. Honestly, yeah, like that's literally anything that you guys give me is is incredibly generous. So, thank you, and yeah. My goodness. I didn't mind this job so much. I found it quite fun being alone, cleaning and blasting music throughout an empty house. However, I always felt uneasy about being alone at one specific rental. I call it the creepy house, especially in the basement of that house. It's just dark and cold. There was no carpet and barely any windows. There was a utility room that was home to many spiders and flies, so when the renter of the house moved out, I was dreading the fact that I was going to be alone, for the most part, cleaning every inch of the creepy house. I told my mom that I hated it and asked if she would help me at least clean downstairs. She told me that she would be upstairs painting walls. She then laughed a little and told me to stop being silly and that nothing is going to happen, that I'm safe. So I got my speaker, got my bucket of cleaning water along with the broom, and headed downstairs. I remember the basement being cold, colder than it usually was, but I shrugged it off, then did my best to put on a brave face. I plugged in my speaker and started playing some One Direction song, hoping that I would drown out my fear with music. I then turned on every single light downstairs and closed the doors to all the rooms that I was not cleaning at the time, hoping that the lights in the closed doors would keep me safe. Everything was going great. I was cleaning and jamming out to music, my paranoia slowly going away. My brother would come down every once in a while and tease me, which is normal. Once he left, my mom came down and told me that she was leaving to go get a drink from our home, which was just down the street from the creepy house. I was okay with that. I was barely acknowledging my paranoia, so I just turned my music down a little so I could hear my phone ring if one of my parents called. About 5 minutes after my mom left, I started to hear soft footsteps coming towards the bathroom. I shouted at my brother to not touch my speaker and to leave me alone. However, I didn't get a response, but my speaker stopped playing and I knew he had turned it off to annoy me. I rolled my eyes and just continued cleaning, not wanting to go turn it back on, knowing that he would keep turning it off. Then, I heard a creak, like a door was opening. I just continued on with what I was doing. After some time, I needed to go get more cleaner, which was upstairs. I remember walking out of the bathroom and stopping dead in my tracks. All of the doors that I had closed were open and all of the lights I turned on were shut off. It felt like I couldn't breathe because of how scared I was. I cleared my throat and shouted for my brother to stop it and that this isn't funny. I walked towards the stairs and the hairs on my arms stood up. It became freezing cold right before I reached the step, and it felt like someone released a breath on my neck. I bolted up the stairs, wanting to kill my brother for doing this. I went to the kitchen sink and started dumping out the old water to replace it with new water. I halted my movements when I heard a loud crash come from the top of the basement stairs. I stopped, terrified but still annoyed that my brother would do this. I crept to the top of the stairs and saw a dark shadow run out of view at the bottom. I froze, and before I could say anything, the downstairs light starts to flicker, and I heard all of the doors start to open and close. I ran out of that house and ran home. When I ran inside, my dad and mom were sitting in the living room, and in the kitchen was my brother. I remember trying so hard to make my parents believe what had happened, but they kept telling me that it was just my imagination. I told them to go and look at the basement and they will see, thinking that everything would be wrecked. When I refused to go back to the house, they finally went over and went downstairs. They told me that all of the doors were closed, all the lights were on, and my music was playing. 2 years after this happened, my dad and I were sat talking about how the Reynolds all have a story. When I asked the story was for the creepy house, my dad went serious, which is rare for my outgoing dad who has the personality of a child. He told me that when they bought the house, they were informed that there had been a death in the house years ago. I remember the chilling feeling I got when he told me that. My dad went on to say that the man who owned the house in the late 1900s had hung himself in the utility room of the basement. Yikes, that's scary. Hippopreme with 2 bucks says, buy yourself something nice, love the narrations. Thank you, Hippo. Appreciate that. And Vinny Rad82 with the 10 says, keep up the great work, love what you do, and enjoyed your ASMR channel as well. It's my birthday, God bless. Oh my god. Happy birthday, Vinny. We'll have to read you something fun here. And I'm glad you enjoy the ASMR channel. Because God bless you on that. I've kind of experimenting with that to see what kind of things are going on, or what people are into for ASMR. So definitely open to suggestions for that as well. Alex, thank you for your donation. Stephanie is down for a narrator's choice as well. Reddish Fox with the $10 says, your narration are so helpful to me. I recently broke my back giving birth to my son. Your voice is one of the few things that helps my insomnia. Thank you for being you. Reddish Fox, oh my God, you broke your back giving birth to your son. I pray that your child is doing well since birth, and I'm so sorry. I know giving birth and going through school in the medical field and kind of learning about that birth can be an incredibly difficult process that I obviously will never be able to fully comprehend, but I'm so sorry that you had to go through that, and it does ground me quite a bit to learn that through these narrations I'm able to help so many people with sleep and that are struggling with pain and things like that. So thank you so much, Reg Fox. I hope everything is going well with your new family here. What's the ASMR channel's name? So it's just called Let's Read ASMR. You probably would have best luck finding it on if you type, or if you were on my main channel, it's on the right hand side as a suggested channel. So yeah, just straightforward Let's Read ASMR. No apostrophe in this one. I decided it was probably best to just get rid of that and just stick with the Let's Read deal. Johnny Rodriguez says, how do I send a story in? So yeah, I'm going to type into the chat here. If you send a story into Let's Read Submissions at gmail.com, you can send it there, or you can go to reddit.com/Let's Read Official, and that is my official subreddit. It actually might not show up because of YouTube not allowing like links and stuff like that, but you could create a Reddit account and submit it there, or you could just send it to my Gmail and then I'll just put it into my subreddit for later use. Oh, I got a $1 donation, but that says message retracted. What do I like to do besides my YouTube channel? So my life kind of consists of, besides the channel, I play video games. So a lot of Overwatch, and then I go to the gym and do CrossFit stuff. So kind of hanging out with that community a little bit and just trying to, I don't know, get in shape or whatever. It kind of becomes a bit of a arduous process after a while, but it also is a little bit of addicting to a certain extent, so that's always fun. Serial Chiller with another $1. So yeah, that's who it was Serial Chiller, so thank you. Can you get a shout out for your friend Angelique? Absolutely, Angelique. He's saying you are a Dumbo. I don't believe that for a second, but shout out to you, and I hope everything's going well. Thank you, Serial Killer, for the $2 there. Okay. So in my Gmail here, I am going to, I believe earlier we had a request from Kat for an old classic here related to forest forest story, kind of what do they call that, Dave? Forest Ranger. Search and Rescue, my mistake. Yes, the Search and Rescue. So we will give that a little read. Okay. When I started out as a rookie, no one had told me a lot about the job in terms of weird things that could happen. I'm assuming this was largely to prevent me from freaking out and abandoning the park, but a few months into my service, when I was still a rookie, a friend and I were drunk at a party, and he opened up a bit. Yeah, I can get a little crazy out there, I guess. I think the worst ones where people die when they just shouldn't, you know? Or when you find them dead like 10 minutes after someone says they last saw them. They were fine when I passed them on the switch back, I swear. That sort of shit. Like, take this guy who I found one spring out in a really popular trail. Someone comes into the VC freaking about some guy who's lying in the middle of the path in this giant pool of blood. So we run out there and we find this guy dead as a doornail, which he absolutely should be because the back of his head is like mashed potatoes. The skull is decimated, brains are leaking out like custard filling, and the guy's old, so you figured, yeah, he probably fell and hit his head. Old people fall at the time, it's no big deal, except that in that area where he fell doesn't have any big rocks. There's not even stumps or big branches, and on top of that, there's no blood trail, so he clearly died where he dropped. Now, that's when you turn to murder, but there were people just out of line of sight with the guy. If someone came up behind him and murdered him, there's no way someone would have heard. Again, even if someone had, there'd be a blood trail, like a splatter all over the place, but everyone in the scene said it looked exactly like he'd fallen and smashed his head on a rock. So what the fuck did he hit his head on? And then there's this lady I found in a different park about 5 years ago, back when I was upstate. We found her in the middle of a stand of big junipers, curled around the trunk like she was hugging it. He picked her up to move her, and a fucking waterfall comes out of her mouth, splashes all over my shoes. Her clothes are dry and her hair is dry, but the amount of water in her lungs and stomach was phenomenal. Unreal, man. Coroner's report says the cause of death was drowning. Her lungs were completely full of water. This, even though we're in the middle of the high desert and there isn't a body of water for miles. No puddles, nothing. No signs of anyone else being out there. I mean, yeah, it's possible that they were murdered, but why go out of the way to do it like that? Why not just stab them and be done with it? I don't know. It just sits weird with me. Now, of course, that freaked me out a little bit. But we were wasted, and I guess I sort of wrote it off as a fluke. I also assumed there was exaggeration there since, we were wasted. Now, I don't like talking about this next case very much, and it was an awful one that I've done my best to forget about. But of course, that's easier said than done. This happened 6 months after the conversation with my friend at the bar, and up until that point I hadn't had a lot of really weird shit go down. A few things here and there, and of course the stares, but it's amazingly easily to get used to stuff like that when it's treated as if though it's normal. This case was a little different. A guy with Down syndrome in his 20s went missing after his family lost sight of him on a major path. That was odd in and of itself because this guy never left his mom's side. She was absolutely convinced he'd been kidnapped, and unfortunately, a ranger who isn't in the park anymore insinuated that no one was going to kidnap someone, well, with that kind of disability. Not very tactful, to say the least. We wasted a lot of time trying to calm her down enough to get information about him, and then we put out a final missing persons call. Because of the urgency of the situation, him being mostly unable to function alone, we had local police come in and help us. We didn't find him the first night, which was heartbreaking. None of us wanted to think of him being alone out there. We assumed he just kept wandering and was staying ahead of us. We brought out helis the next day, and they spotted him in one little canyon. I helped bring him back up, but he was in bad shape, and I think we all knew he wasn't going to make it. He'd fallen and broken his spine and couldn't feel his lower half. He'd also broken both his legs, one at the femur, and he'd lost a lot of blood. He was confused and scared while he was alone, so he'd probably exacerbated the injuries by dragging himself a little ways. I know it sounds awful, but while I was riding in the copter with him, I asked him why he'd wandered off. I just wanted something to tell his mother, to let her know it wasn't her fault because he was fading fast and I didn't think she'd get to ask him himself. He was crying and he said something about how the little sad boy had wanted him to come play. He said the little boy wanted to trade so he could go home. Then he closed his eyes, and when he woke up again, he was in the canyon. I'm not sure that's exactly what he said, but it was what I thought the gist of it was. He kept crying, asking where his mommy was, and I held his hand and tried my best to keep him calm. It was cold out there, he kept saying. It was cold out there. My legs was frozen. It was cold out there. It's cold in me. He was getting even weaker, so he eventually stopped talking and he closed his eyes for a while. Then, when we were about 5 minutes from the hospital, he looked right at me with these big tears running down his face. He said, "Mama won't see me no more. Love Mama. Wish she was here." And he closed his eyes and he just never woke up. It was horrible, and I don't like talking about it. That case was one of the first ones that really rattled me badly. Because of how badly it affected me, I reached out to a senior ranger and who ended up helping me through it. As time went on, and we got to know each other better, he ended up sharing one of his own stories with me. It was disturbing, but it helped to know that I wasn't the only one affected by the things going on out there. I think this must have been before you got here because I think if it had happened while you were here, you'd have remembered it. I know it didn't end up in the news for some reason, but I think most people who have been there long enough know about it. The park sold off a portion of land to a logging company, and it was a really controversial thing. But it wasn't that large or old of a plot, and it was right after the recession, so we needed cash bad. Anyway, they were felling this plot of land, and we get a call that we need to get our supervisors out right away. I don't know why, but they ended up sending me and a few other guys along with the heads, I guess for power and numbers, to see what was up. We got there, and all these guys are crowded around a tree that they've just cut down. They're all pissed off and freaking out, and the foreman comes over and says he wants to know what we think we're up to. What the hell y'all think this is? Some kind of sick joke? You got a lot of fucking nerve pulling this shit. We bought this land fair and square. Well, we don't know what the hell he's talking about. So he brings us over to this felled tree and points at it and tells us that when they cut it down, it was just like this, and they'll be damned if they put it there. The inside of the tree was all rotted out and hollowed in one spot, and when they cut it down, it exposed that chamber, and inside it is a hand, like a perfectly severed hand, and looks like it's actually fused with the inside of the tree. Well, now we think they're pulling a joke, so we tell them that we don't like being fucked with, and we start to leave, but they tell us they've already called the cops, and that they'll go right to the media if we don't stick around. Well, that gets the heads' attention, so they stick around and talk to the police about it. Everyone is denying that they put the hand in there, and besides, how would anyone have done it? It's clearly a real hand, but it's not mummified or skeletal. It's brand new, probably not even a day old, and it is definitely fused with the wood. You can see that it's coming right out of it. The loggers, they insist that they didn't put it there. Somehow, this fresh human hand ended up fused to the inside of this living tree. Cops have them cut up that section of tree into a movable chunk. Then they take the hand away and the area is closed off. It was a pretty big investigation, but I know they didn't find or get any answers. Now it becomes this legend, and as far as I know, we haven't sold any more property for logging. As you all know, I went to a training seminar recently and heard some amazing and horrible things there. One of the guys I talked to while I was there told me a story when we were all around the campfire one night. We were both pretty drunk, and you'll see a pattern here, and we were swapping stories. He told me this one. Me and another guy were out in the field searching because some campers reported screaming noises at night. So we head out there to look for whatever fucking mountain lion he has wandered in this land, and I'm pissed. We've had 3 of them show up in the camping areas this year alone, and I'm getting tired as hell constantly having to deal with them. Plus, I just don't like them anyways. They're a pain in the ass, and they're loud, and they scare the shit out of me. Fucking cats. Piece of shit. I'm groaning about it the other guy I'm with, and he thinks it's a real fucking riot. So we're seeing all these broken branches and what looks like dens, and we're pretty sure we know where this thing is. I call in and they tell me to confirm if possible, which, just means that they want you to step in a big pile of shit and use that as proof. I'm not seeing any, though, so I basically just tell them to shove it. I'm done. We know that damn thing's out there somewhere, even if I'm not stepping into its shit or inside its mouth or whatever. Guy I'm with wanders off to take a piss and whatever, and I stay behind watching this little burrow under the tree to see if maybe a fox or something is living under it, 'cause I love foxes, man. They're cute as hell. But anyway, I'm watching this tree and I start hearing branches crackling, and it's coming from the direction my partner went opposite of. Now, I've got my pistol, but you and I both know that's not going to do shit against a cat. I cock it and holler for my partner to get his dumb ass back, but he's too far and he can't hear me. I stand up and get my sights on where this thing is approaching, and I shit you not, man, I just about peed myself. This guy is coming towards me and he's backflipping through the fucking woods. Like, instead of walking, he's doing these crazy fucking backflips. And I swear to God, he cleared every fucking log and bush in his path. It was like he knew right where he was going. I yelled at the guy to stop right where he is, and then I'm pointing a gun right at him, but he keeps coming. And I just kind of lost it. I shot at the ground in front of him. It was a dumb fucking thing to do, but man, I didn't want this guy anywhere near me. When I fired, he was about 50 yards from me, and as soon as the gun goes off, he whirls around and goes off, backflipping back into the woods. My partner hears my gun go off and runs back, asks what's up. And I tell them there's some fucking weirdo out here up on God knows what, and we need to get the hell out of Dodge. I left the cops know what happened, and I didn't get any trouble for firing, but man, I don't know what the motherfucker was on, but I've never seen anything like that before. Shit was absolutely buttfuck crazy. I think we can agree there's stuff going on out here in the woods, and while I'm not going to spout off about what it could be or offer any theories, what I want people to take away from all of this is that it is so damn important to be safe when you're out here. I know a lot of you think you're invincible, but the fact that you can die out there, or be hurt or go missing, it's easier than you've ever imagined. Holy shit. Backflip. That's pretty amazing. Backflipping. We had quite a few donations there that I apologize. I just wanted to get through that story, but I'm going to zoom up to the top real quick and make sure we got them here. Serial Killer, we had covered. Thank you, Serial Killer. Abby Kimmel with the $5 says, Ouija board story or paranormal. Love your channel. Absolutely, Abby. Thank you. And then Isabella, again with the $6, says, Stalker story, please. What's your favorite food? Oh, man, that is a good question. What do I like to eat? Lately I've been eating apples with peanut butter. That sounds kind of funny. But no, I love cheesecake. I love lasagna. Lasagna is an amazing invention of a food. I honestly think it's better than pizza. And I could argue against anybody that would be against that thought. But yeah, definitely lasagna. My mom used to make some amazing lasagna growing up, and that was like my favorite dinner, especially because the leftovers were always amazing as well. You just stuff your face with that, and it never got worse. I didn't think so. Maria Losher, what's up, Maria? It's good to see you. I can't go crazy either, but I'm thankful for the opportunity of collaborating with you. Absolutely. You guys may have noticed a few videos back, me and Maria did a collaboration. She did a speed drawing of a couple kids around a Ouija board, which was amazing. And so if you guys ever get a chance to go check that video, you can check out Maria. She does commissions and some amazing artwork that you can check out on Instagram and various other social media sites. So thank you again, Maria, for that. BTS Kinks with the $1. Thank you, Kinks. Appreciate that. BTS Kinks again with the $2 says, thanks for always calming me down. Absolutely. I'm here to talk you through the good and the bad. Thank you. To Lee with the $5 says, I love your voice. Shout out to my adorable girlfriend who also loves listening to your amazing voice. For the story, your choice. Thank you. Absolutely. Thank you for the 5. BTS Kinks with the $2. I don't know how much is on this card, lol. So here. Thanks. I appreciate that. Oh, man. Catherine D with the 5. Thank you, Catherine. And oh my gosh, it's Bianca. Bianca with the 5 says, I'm so happy for you. Here's a little something for all the hard work you put into making us all so happy. Thank you, Bianca. I hope you're having a good day. It's always good to hear from you. Vanikin's Art with the 2 says, how did you get Pradeep Kitty? Yeah, so it was... thank you for the 2. It's my buddy's aunt. She would have like stray cats at her house that always would have litters and stuff. And the one of the more recent litters she had at the time, I guess about 4 years now, included Pradeep, and she said Pradeep's sort of attitude and just personality and stuff was like the most relaxed she's ever seen in a cat in a while. So she would just, ever since it was like born, essentially would have it in her lap, kind of like on his back, and then just kind of pet his stomach till he would fall asleep. And honestly, that really helps. Is like if you can get to a cat like early, you can turn it into whatever you want. You know what I mean? Because he is literally the nicest cat ever. You can pick him up, put him on his back, rub his tummy, whatever. He does not care, and he's a good boy. But yeah, that's how the origin story of Pradeep. He's funny. He's actually really funny sometimes. Kyle Schneider with the 5 says, it's your hospital buddy again, donating as a thanks for reading and to ask what you do in the hospital. Thanks, Kyle. So yeah, I work as a per diem registered nurse at my local hospital here. And basically whenever someone needs shifts picked up or, to maintain my license, I just need to work like 1 week in a month while I do YouTube full time. I just, I do enjoy staying on top of that, but also, being able to have that as a backup because YouTube is quite unpredictable at times. So, yeah. Bianca had, she forgot to put a story. She wanted to hear a Bigfoot one. So yeah, let me get that down for you, Bianca. That's definitely some of my favorite stories. And Hannah Linnea with the 2. So thank you so much, Hannah. I appreciate that. Have I ever saved anyone's life? Well, there's been many a times where people have been in situations where they've coded or, essentially like stopped breathing or things like that. But my floor is pretty chill for the most part. It's like people stay there for a while, but it's usually like it's not like the ICU or PCU where they're having heart issues or breathing issues or anything like that. But people can kind of go downhill, and I guess based on the actions I've taken leading up to that scenario, like little things that you can recognize, it can you can prevent things like that from happening. But fortunately for me, I'm not real big into, the blood and guts scenario and the intense experiences that some floors have to deal with every day. So if anybody's life has been saved, it was because they may or may not have died if I didn't get them that pudding in time or something. Cashy said, add to your Patreon page. It's super tragic. I know, as of right now, I pretty much, it's $1 or more a month if you guys want, and basically I just like upload my audio for all of future videos and podcasts and stuff like that there. So pretty much that's all I have right now is early access to my audio. I am trying to think of new ideas that I would put on there. If there's anything that you guys can think of, I'm more than open to doing that. But you guys are gonna have to let me know. Venikins with the $2 says Pradeep kitty face reveal. Yeah, if you go on my Twitter, you can actually see Pradeep on there. and potentially the outline of my body. So you guys have to scour through the pictures to find that. But yeah, he's a beautiful big black cat. He's a good boy. All right. So earlier, Cashy had actually donated for Mish Cutie Pie here. So, let's do ourselves a nice little story for Mish Cutie Pie. Kyle Schneider with the 5 says, "What is the worst thing you've ever seen?" I've seen some bad things since I go through the whole hospital. That's a different story, though. That's a good question as far as the worst thing I've seen. Not going into hyper specifics or anything like that. I just remember whenever I did, it's like working in the ED was like where you see most of the stuff, like seeing a guy's like leg cracked and rotated backwards, like the opposite direction, he fell. He was pretty chill about it, though. I'm sure he was doped up on quite a bit of different things. And then I felt really bad for this old lady who was like found fallen in her house. When she was brought in by the EMS, she had C. diff and was just covered, like literally in a pool of her own diarrhea. That was pretty disgusting, and just the process of all the nurses assisting with getting her cleaned up, and then whatever else they had to do at that point, probably go scan to make sure she didn't crack a hip. But that was pretty yucky. Man, yeah, I'm glad. Sometimes there's a lot of, and it's funny, it's a short period of time, but you see a lot of stuff. I just remember a motor vehicle accident that this guy suffered, and, he essentially, while they were doing emergency surgery on him, his, whole body is just completely cut up and broken and things like that, and it's just terrifying, and I had to insert a catheter to help him urinate during the surgery, just in case they needed that. And I just remember as I was doing it, I was like, still in training, so I was like, just go in and do it here. And I just remember the guy who I thought was passed out he was like, just do it, man, I don't care. And I just felt terrible because he was clearly in a pretty terrible state, and he's the one telling me to just get it over with kind of thing. And but yeah, that was a little shocking. All right, so for Miss Cutie Pie, this story takes place a little less than a year ago. For context, I was living in a townhouse-style apartment at the time. When you first walked into my kitchen, you would see a staircase straight in front of you, and to the right, my living room that led to the kitchen, dining room downstairs, and laundry room. If you took the stairs, it would lead you to our upstairs bathroom and 2 bedrooms. At this time in my life, I was living with just my husband. We didn't have any kids, and usually it was just the 2 of us. Sorry. On the night my sister had asked to stay in our extra bedroom because she had to be in town early for work, and her house is located 35 miles out. We agreed to let her stay with us, and I made sure the room was clean. That night, we were inside around 8 p.m., and I remember this being one of the coldest nights of the year. Normally, my husband and I were night owls, but this night we decided to go to bed early for some reason or another. We said goodnight to my sister and asked her to lock the front door on her way out in the morning. Whenever we had guests to stay over, we would lock our bedroom door mainly because we slept naked, but also because we were pretty sure most people in our life would try to prank us in our sleep. That night being no different, we locked our bedroom door and went to bed. I fell asleep rather quickly, but was woken up several hours later by a loud noise. I laid still in bed, unsure of whether or not I had truly heard anything. After a moment of not hearing anything, I started to drift back to sleep. Right as I hit a true point of comfort, I heard a loud bang coming from downstairs. I carefully turned over and nudged my husband awake. "Babe, I think something's going on downstairs. It's probably just your sister. She stayed here, remember? I rolled over to check the time on my phone. 3:38 a.m. Babe, please, it's too early for her to be her. Could you please just go check? I knew he was annoyed to have to be getting up, but I also knew that I was going to be terrified the entire time if he didn't. He threw on some sweatpants, t-shirt, and turned on the light on his phone. As he turned the handle to unlock the door, he opened it to find my sister reaching for our bedroom handle. At this time, he jumped back into our room and she started whispering to tell us that there was someone at the front door trying to get in. My husband took the knife he held by the bed and went downstairs. Every few minutes we would hear a loud bang. While he was trying to see what was happening, downstairs my sister called the cops and we watched everything from the upstairs bedroom window. We could see a larger figure pounding on the door and trying to get in with the handle. Then he would go to our front window and act like he was going to break it. The dispatcher told my sister that the police were just pulling up. As we watched out the window, we saw 4 police cars pull into our street. The dispatchers told all of us to wait upstairs until she told us to come down. As we watched, we saw 2 officers get out of their cars and try to approach the man. They asked him carefully why he was there and to come talk to them. After asking him many times, they decided to restrain him, and after 4 cops held him down, they got him handcuffed. The man had a knife on him and was drunk. He told them that my apartment was his house and that his friends had dropped him off a while earlier. An ambulance also had to be called to check his injuries. Apparently when he was trying to get in, he had cut his hand pretty badly. The dispatcher told us we could go downstairs after they had finished taking care of the man. They told us that they were taking him for the night, but that he would be out the next day. I'm not sure what he would have done if he got in, but I'm glad I won't have to find out. Tacos donates $2 and says, I love your voice, heart, heart. Thank you, Tacos. Appreciate that. Love your loving my voice. It's a great name, by the way, Tacos. Oh, man. Yes. I almost have to move a little bit quick here because the video comes out at 7. And we got a nice little list going here. Isabella wanted to hear something from the beach. I like that. Seems like it'd be nice to be there right now. Every year for summer holidays, me and my family go to my grandparents' house in a region in France called Breton. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, I'm sorry. And they have the luck. Oh goodness, this music's pretty loud. And they have the luck to live on a cliff right next to the beach, which is pretty neat. And for you to understand the situation I was in, I'll do a quick description of the place and most importantly, how to access the beach. In English, it's Brittany. Okay, interesting. Brittany, that's okay. It'd be funny to spell your daughter's name if she was Brittany, spelled like that. When we get out of the house, we need to cross a little road and get to an entrance between bushes. Then, it's a clear but narrow path that you can take just to enjoy the view of the sea, or you can also go to a staircase built in the rock of the cliff. Then, you'll just have to walk a medium-sized stones and, ta-da, you've arrived at the beach. The place itself is pretty big, but there's only a few ways to access it. By the staircase I describe, or by one another at the other end of it. Also, a big thing to mention as I grew older, I stopped building sandcastles and swimming with my family. I'm 18 and the older of 3 other siblings way younger than me, so I was done playing child's game, and I had started to climb the cliffs for fun. Not the steep ones. It was more so a semi-hiking a partially collapsed cliff. Last year, after having dinner, I headed out for a little walk on the beach. No one seemed determined to come with me, so I was alone. No big deal, I did it every evening. After going down the staircase, I walked a little bit and then sat down on a stone to smoke a joint and listen to some music. Not really smart, but hey, I'm a teen in a little village that I go to every summer, and as much as I love my family, it gets pretty boring from time to time. I'm enjoying my time when I spot a guy in the corner of my eye at maybe 40 meters from me. No big deal, it's a free access beach after all. But then he starts heading his way toward me. His head was shaved and had square-shaped glasses on, maybe around his mid-20s or early 30s. He was pretty tall, like he worked outside for a long time. It's pretty tan. The bald dude is getting closer, but again, I don't own the beach. As he's coming next to me, I hear over my music that he's trying to talk to me. I removed my headphones and he said something along the lines of, "Hey, you look familiar. Have we met before?" I answered with a calm but firm no, but he keeps insisting that he saw me at the beach today. And sure, I said, maybe he did, but there are tons of people at the beach. I don't remember everyone I see. The way I'm responding clearly implies that I'm not interested in having a conversation with him, but he sits on the stone next to me and he keeps talking, mostly about himself, that he loves the beach, the weather is nice, that I'm nice with him. That's where it got creepy. He says that it's rare to find nice girls, and that he's happy I'm not a bitch. I don't find another equivalent in English, but in French he said, "traîner." He then asked about my name, where I live, and of course I didn't say a thing. He started to lean closer to me, which made me really uncomfortable, always with a huge grin on his face. And that's when it hit me. Remember when I said that we were the only a few entrances to the beach? That asshole was sitting right between me and the staircase. I was cornered. No one was there. We were completely alone. And even though I was quite athletic, I'm 4'9" and weigh 90 pounds. This guy for me is twice my size, and he clearly wants to continue our discussion. As I'm not responding, he started to sound annoyed, clenching his fist, but still with his stupid grin glued on his face. He asked me if I really was a good girl, and why won't I talk to him? I'm shitting myself at this point when I look at my left and almost let out a sigh of relief. On the cliff I'm used to climbing onto, one of the cliffs I'm used to climbing onto is right next to us. And even if I said that they are more like hiking than climbing, I could rush to the top in a matter of seconds as I'm used to doing it, run on the narrow path and go home safely. So I just got up and said, "I don't want to talk anymore. Good evening." He looked startled for a moment, looking back at the staircase for a second, which confirmed my suspicions. He thought he had blocked my only entrance of escaping, since the other stairs were way too far off. To this day, it still scares me that it was his first reaction. At this point, I'm high, tired, and terrified, but I start to walk confidently to the cliff at a high pace, and in the corner of my eye, I can see that he is standing now, looking in my direction. As soon as I'm close enough, I literally start to jump from rock to rock as fast as I can, scratching myself in the process. When I arrive at the top, I look down and he is looking at me, not smiling like before, but frowning and looking like he is on the verge of committing a crime. I then sprinted to my grandparents' house, which luckily is close, and explained everything to my mother, and the next day I reported the guy to the police station, giving the best description that I could. Since it's a small village, they could apprehend him easily if he was a resident, but to be fair, French police and such, nothing came out of it. So yeah, sorry if this is long, but I wanted to give a detailed explanation of what happened. It was a little bit anticlimactic, but this guy actually had a plan in mind, and I'm glad I did not stick around to discover what it was. And again, since I'm back at the place, I could take some pictures if you'd like. Isabella back with the 6 says, "Describe yourself in your storytelling voice." Oh gosh. Tacos? Wait, I'm sorry, did I? Oh yeah, Tacos again here, yeah. Tacos says hi with the $5. Thank you, Tacos. Hello to you. If I had to describe myself, I would say maybe I'm disembodied, a floater, if you will. A entity that exists at the bottom of your Sprite or kombucha. Something that wasn't supposed to be there necessarily. Almost as if though bacteria and its over-proliferation has generated itself into reality and taken consciousness. Needless to say, I am the scum at the bottom of your drink. Evan, you don't like kombucha? I love kombucha, dude. I drink it way too much. Celine Ruiz says, do you like Mexican food? Absolutely. I love yeah, we have quite a few Mexican restaurants around here, and they are amazing. Excuse me, sorry. Tony with the demon story here. Kombucha buddies. Uh-oh. We'll see how this was here. Gotta find a nice, decently sized... Do I have a beard? I do have a beard. It's kind of like been part of my body for quite a while. I remember when I turned 22 is when... turned 22 and all of a sudden my beard just started coming in. Do I have a mustache? It's a beard-mustache combo, yes. It's all part of the greater package here. The reason I have been hesitant to say anything to the rest of the people I'm living with is because of where we live. We live next door to a church. Some part of me thinks they won't believe me because of that. They probably believe because it's on holy ground that we can't be haunted, especially by a malicious spirit or demon. But the church itself is haunted. I've literally seen ghosts in that church. It's an old church built in the late 1800s, slowly falling apart. All white and wood. Just to give a bit of visual, it looks almost run down. So on to the supposed demon in my basement. I've lived with ghosts all my life. My family tends to buy older houses, made 100 to 300 years ago. Not only that, my mother is a medium. My father is an experienced psychic. My sister is a Wiccan, and I like communicating with spirits, so needless to say, we have a magnetic energy to our family. We've probably attracted a bunch of spirits to ourselves at this point, so it's not a big deal. We moved into this 150-year-old house next to an old rundown church, and right away I knew it was haunted, or I had brought with me a ghost from the previous house. Didn't seem like that, though. The presence was unfamiliar. So of course, me being the person I am, I wanted to communicate with this ghost. There are two, to my knowledge, spirits in this house that are not malicious. The first one goes by Fuji. When I talked to this ghost, I asked if it was short for fugitive, and my candles went out. So I'm going to take this as a sign that he took that as offensive. And G. G is the ghost of a black lab, and Fuji. I don't know much about Fuji other than he's playful, a playful poltergeist that died 70 years ago. Fuji is not malicious in the slightest. I'm going to guess he was young when he died, in his late teens or early 20s, while G was a 4-month-old black lab. The way that Fuji communicates with me is pretty simple. He communicates with knocks, lights, candles, and he is able to successfully use my spirit box. He also has a tendency to move things and knock things down. The point I'm trying to make is that neither of these spirits are malicious and are both willing to communicate with me. One day I was using my Ouija board to contact Fuji, and I started asking him questions about the house. He said that there was someone in the attic. So I went to the attic to try to communicate and ended up with nothing. so I gave up and went back downstairs. I asked about the basement. As soon as I did, my connection with him hit a dead end. He quickly said goodbye and blew out my candles. I felt his presence leave my room. I didn't attempt to communicate with him for the rest of that night. Concerned and curious about this, the next day I attempted to contact G. G did not give the same reaction as Fuji, but he refused to answer until me and my sister, she was also there the night before, sorry to not specify, asked a question unrelated to the basement or the house at all. My spirit guide, Joey, even refused to talk to me about this. Joey is a spirit that attached himself to me at birth. He will not mention anything about this basement, which really makes me wonder what's down there. My cat will literally stand and stare at the basement door and hiss. My dog will not walk in that hallway, or when he does, he tries to avoid that door as much as possible. The spirits in my house are terrified of this basement so much so that they won't even tell me anything about it. I've gone down there and found a pile of 3 or 4 dead mice. I'm honestly at a loss for words at this point. I want to communicate with this spirit, but I have no way to do it safely as my spiritual guide and protector Joey wants no part of this. All the spirits I have contacted with are terrified of my basement. Should I be scared? I know this may sound fake, but each and every detail I told you in this story is true. I'm at a loss, honestly. Adriana, it's your birthday. Happy birthday! Nim says, I've met an ugly Joel before. Well, prepare to hear a beautiful one. This story is interesting because if G is a dead 4-month-old black lab, I can only imagine a black lab just kind of like maybe kicking your Ouija board around accidentally because it was excited to see you, just like running up and licking your face or eating your sandwich that you had sitting next to you or something like that. That'd be funny, or like you meet G or whatever in the Ouija world and it spells out like treat. That'd be funny. Or walk. That'd be good. It wants a treat and a walk. Or it just types like outside and then you open the door and it just goes and poops and it can go to doggy heaven or whatever. Never die with a full belly. All right, Tony, thank you for that. And this is where I wished Wonderland and Kashi went at each other hardcore and got Emily involved with these big donos here. So the guys had not specifically mentioned what you wanted to hear, but I am more than happy to see what we can find for you. I will start off with my very first paranormal experience. I was 3 or 4 living in a small village in western Germany during the mid-'80s. My family lived in a quaint little 2-story farmhouse while we waited to get housing on base. My dad was in the military. My life was pretty normal. I have 2 brothers, one older and one younger than me, but that really isn't relevant for this story. I love that house, and I remember helping the little old lady that lived across the street snap peas, played outside with my brothers, and had a happy childhood for the most part. There was, however, one place in the house I would refuse to go. This is going to sound cliché, but it was the basement. The door to the basement was in the tiny kitchen. I would be in there helping my mom make cookies or something, and I remember getting an uneasy feeling just from the door to basement. My dad would go down the stairs to the basement without a problem, but I refused to go with him. I would immediately start crying at the thought of going down there. It wasn't that it was dark and creepy. In fact, it was well lit and didn't have any blind corners or anything. The reason I wouldn't go down there was because of an old man that, it seems, only I could see. I would tell my mom and she would tell me, I don't see anything. I would get the same response from my family members, but There was an angry German man down there, and he did not like me. It went as far as I would have nightmares in that house, vivid and graphic nightmares. It is very telling that I remember these horrible visions after 30-plus years like I had them last night, but I am getting ahead of myself a little. These nightmares were the same every single night. Now remember that at most 4 years old and Now remember, I'm at most 4 years old and have not seen a scary movie yet. Every night I would fall asleep without an issue and have a few happy dreams. Then it would start. In my nightmare, I would see the stairs that led up to the top floor of the house where the bedrooms are. I saw the stairs like I was at the bottom of them looking up, but I wasn't me. I was seeing it through someone else's eyes. I know, even in my dream, I was sleeping upstairs comfy in my bed, but as I start to go up the stairs, I would start to see the plaster on the walls crack, and the thin boards beneath it start to splinter. The further up I go, the worse it gets, like the whole house is going to crumble. Then I start to see dismembered body parts come out of the walls the stairs go up. They are decaying and smell horrible. I can see bone and raw darkening meat around the jagged cuts on each part. First it's the hands and feet, then the arms and legs. Finally the head with half its face bloated and green, with the other side sloughing skin so I can see the empty eye sockets, and the hole where the nose had rotted away. These body parts would hurl themselves at me like they meant to eat me. I would wake up just as head starts to talk, but I don't know what it was trying to say, as its torn, shriveled lips moved, but there was no sound. I would wake screaming. My mom would comfort me and get me back to sleep. I would have normal dreams the rest of the night. This happened every night for the 4 to 5 months we lived in that house. When we finally moved, neither the nightmare or the man ever plagued me again, but I still remember it very vividly. As I grew older and developed a love for the sciences, especially anatomy, I realized that in my dream the body parts were anatomically correct. I wish I could actually draw, and then I could sketch a picture to show you how horrifying it was. I'll post a story later. Thank you for reading this. Even if most of you will believe I made this up, it's nice to get it off my chest. I've been carrying this around for 33 years. Oh man, sorry about that. Fire Hunter with the $20 is paranormal. Thank you, Fire Hunter. That's good and direct here. Fire Hunter. Also, it's funny, like, I coughed at the end and you just, like, cough up phlegm. It's disgusting. Oh, yeah. You guys should follow my Instagram if you haven't. It's down there in the description. Cashy had brought my attention to that. But yeah, unfortunately, still a little bit sick. Wished Wonderland, thank you for that. We're going to keep going down the list here. Cashy's got a story coming up. Skinwalkers are not mystical fantasy creatures. No, they are evil witches who like to cause pain and misfortune on others who may have even caused death. In order to get their powers, they have to sacrifice someone they must love. The more they sacrifice, the more power they get. This is an old story that happened in the 40s or 50s about a man who lived alone with his sheep and his dog in the middle of nowhere in his hogan. For weeks he heard and saw strange things happening around him, like a black shadow running, knocking on his house, a man's cough, and his sheep missing and later found dead and mutilated, until he found his dog dead. Tired and afraid of this, he went to a medicine man. He told the medicine man what he was experiencing. He blessed the man and told him to cover himself with ash and leave no part uncovered, and to sit outside his house with a rifle to wait for it to come to him, and when he saw it, and you'll know when you see it, you shoot at it and it will leave you alone. So the man did as asked, and he waited in the dark for a long time before he heard it. Something was coming towards his house. When he looked to his left and he saw a dog or a coyote, he knew it then for what it was. He slowly raised the rifle and aimed it at the dog creature and shot at it. The scary part was when the bullet hit, Instead of a dog cry, the creature let out a scream of a man who was shot. The dog creature immediately turned and ran away. After the man didn't see a strange thing again, he even got a new dog. He fought with a skinwalker and won. That was kind of a short one, so we're going to read this one again here. Kind of actually similar. My family and I are Native Americans from the Navajo tribe, so we have a lot of strange, unexplainable things happen to us involving skinwalkers. This is one of many stories. This happened 4 months ago. My uncle Andre lives alone in a trailer park with his older brother David, who lives right next door to him. That night before, Andre was watching TV when he heard something. He said it sounded like someone running up and down his house. He listened for it for a while. Before he texted my uncle David to look out at his house to see if he saw something. When David looked out, he said he saw something like a man running out to Andre's house. David, being a fearless older brother, ran out just in time to see a black shadow jump 11, maybe 13 feet to the ground. He followed it until he stopped at a tree line where he lost it. He had a flashlight with him and shined the light till he saw reflected eyes looking back at him. The figure looked like it was crouching down, trying to hide from David. He then heard a sound to his side. For a second he looked toward the sound before snapping his head back at the figure to find it gone. Whatever it was no normal creature. No normal creature could jump up and down 13 or 11 to 13 feet off the ground and onto a trailer without a ladder or breaking its legs. Okay. And then back to Wished Wonderland here. So my name is Dean. To give a little background before I tell you my story, I just want to explain that I am a 17-year-old female that lives alone in an apartment building. Sorry, that's the garage door going again. The living room has a huge glass window that leads to the balcony. 2 years ago, I finally moved into my apartment. It was nothing special, and my window was facing the building next door, so when I was bored, sometimes I would look at other people's windows to see how their life is. I know that sounds creepy, but when you're bored, you gotta find some entertainment. 1 year later, everything changed. On the floor right opposite of mine in the next door building, there was a guy. He was tall, attractive, and about the same age as me. He saw me looking and waved. I waved back and then went on to prepare everything because I had company over. The next day in the grocery store, I bumped into the same guy. He looked at me and said, "So yesterday must have been nice." Confused, I asked what he was talking about. He had a grin on his face and said, "Your boyfriend and you. Hopefully you'll do it again soon." I was so confused, and before I could have said anything, he left. I went home and called Ethan to see if he knew what was happening. He just said, "Did you shut the blinds all the way?" I stopped and went to check. I didn't close the blinds all the way. They were semi-closed, still enough for a person to see through. The next day I went over to the guy's apartment to apologize, but he wasn't home, so I left a note saying, "Sorry for being annoying, but I will make sure to close my blinds next time. Just like you were kind of creepy today, but whatever. Have a nice night or day." I'm a straightforward person. I'm not afraid to say what's on my mind. A couple of days later, when I got home, I saw a note on the floor. It said, "Hi. I hope I didn't scare you. What I said in the grocery store was true. I've been watching you two for a couple of months now. You and your boyfriend are so magnificent. If only I had one wish, it would be to watch you and him all the time. You don't need to apologize. Ditch the blinds next time and let me see the whole thing." I was creeped out and I thought about calling my boyfriend, but I'm a strong woman and I could deal with this by myself, so I went over to the guy's apartment. I took my pocket knife with me too in case anything happened. I knocked on his door, but no one answered. Rang his doorbell, and still no sign. After around 10 minutes, I even got more angrier and managed to knock his door down. I went into the apartment, and to my surprise, I didn't see anything odd or off about him except that there was a cardboard from pizza and a couple of Mountain Dews on the floor. I searched around the apartment and ended up in his bedroom. It was horrible. I went over to his window and looked. This is the window he was watching me from. Looking down, I noticed something. It was a goddamn cum rag. I almost puked. I heard whistling coming from his closet, so I went to check. There was nothing there until I heard a small knock. There was a plank sticking out on the floor in front of the closet. I picked it up and to my horror saw pictures of me. I was petrified and wanted to leave. I took the pictures and put them in my back pocket, put the plank back on its place and got the fuck out of there. I left a note on his door saying, "If I ever see you again, good luck." I went home and called 911, explaining everything. A police officer came to my apartment an hour later to see the pictures and decided to wait to see when the guy will arrive so they can arrest him. When we saw the guy on his bedroom window yelling and screaming about what happened, the police officers went and arrested him for child pornography. Turns out the guy was 23 and had multiple complaints from residents about him stalking them, and also he was arrested for being a pedophile before. It has been a year from that now, and a couple of months ago I was called by the police. The resident that lives in the same apartment now decided to remodel it, and they found something. I went over to their apartment to see what that was. They handed me a USB drive. I thanked them and went home. I plugged the USB into my computer and I was shocked. There were 3 folders. The first one was named Fun Time, and there were photos of that night when it all began. Photos of me and my boyfriend, and there was a video too. The next one was called For Me, and there were photos of me alone on the apartment, pictures of me doing random things. And then the third one was called Everywhere, and to my horror I saw more photos of me, well, everywhere, in the mall, Starbucks, and other places I go to frequently. I deleted everything there was on the USB and flushed it down the toilet. Thankfully, I will move soon and leave all of this behind me. Yikes. Catherine D. with the 5. Can you read the poem September 1913 by William Butler Yeats? Thanks. Yeah, was that in my... Yes. There it is. Nice. Yeah, that was in my email here. So thank you for sending that. That makes it much easier. Sorry if I missed that from earlier. So another one for Cashy here. My name is Devin, and I'm from Western Indiana. This incident happened in January of 2013. At the time, I was only 14, going on 15, 20 now. If I can find the article, I will post it as an update. It is buried deep somewhere. I use the city name as I no longer live there. Early one morning, in Terre Haute, Indiana, I was visiting my cousin. They had to leave to go to Indianapolis for a doctor appointment. I couldn't go because I was doing online school at the time and had to be at home at the time of the classes. It started out as any other day, really. Nothing out of the ordinary. I would occasionally let out the family dog in between classes and get something to eat. At about 11 a.m., I had my headset on in class when I hear the dog going crazy. I think to myself, he must need to go out bad. Won't hurt to step away for 2 minutes. Now, the way this house is set up was the basement downstairs led right to the back door, which had a big window at the top. I open the basement door to head up the stairs when I see movement outside and realize it's a head, and I hear a scratching type of sound. I head back down the stairs and start to fear for the worst. There is a man trying to get into the home, and I don't know what his intentions are. Eventually, I heard 2 very loud bangs and the back door gives way. I had no cell phone and looked over to see I didn't have a home phone downstairs. So there I was, completely vulnerable to whoever was in the house. I then hear the dog go quiet, but I hear loud boots stomping on the wood floor above me. After about 2 minutes in utter paralyzing fear, I decided to go run out the back door. As I try to move up the stairs, I hear the man headed towards the back door and see him throw a pillow sack full of other valuables towards the completely busted back door. I head back down and decide not to risk detection. All I hear for the next 15 minutes is loud bangs and things being thrown at the door. What I am about to tell you is the absolute worst part of this experience and is one of the main reasons I developed PTSD. I start to hear the boots stomping down the stairs. At this point, my worst fear is that this man is either going to kidnap or kill me to not get caught. He opens the door and finds me hiding behind the desk. He then proceeds to give me the most dead stare I have ever seen on a person's face and slam the door shut. Then, he books it out of the same door he came in, leaving everything behind. I shakily head upstairs to find him gone and the house looking like an EF3 twister had come through. Chairs were moved, tables tossed, the couch was even upside down. Master bedroom had things thrown about. I then was able to call my family, who called the police. It turned out he was one of a duo in a string of about 7 burglaries in the city. They were later caught by police after a homeowner spotted their vehicle in his driveway and blocked them in. A few minutes later, after I moved, detectives followed up with us about the case, and I was able to ID the man that came in the house. They were found guilty on all charges. One of them even rode with police to show them which houses they had hit, and they pointed ours out. He then told the officer, "I remember that one the most because I saw a kid in there." I don't know how much jail time they got or if they are still incarcerated. My anxiety has gotten better, and I hope to continue down the path of getting into law enforcement. This not only serves as a nightmarish reminder, but as a motivation to continue chasing the dream of becoming an officer. Needless to say, I conceal carry now. Yikes, that's scary. Tacos with the $2 says, "How old are you?" I am 28 years old as farts. Just kidding. Yeah, I'm 28. And yeah, thank you for the 2. Appreciate it. All right, Cashy, thank you for that. Wished Wonderland up next here. Yeah, I think I read some of these ones earlier. This happened to me when I was a teenager, probably around age 14 to 15, but it has reminded me of this topic. Some background information for the story. I hate clowns. I always have and always will. I'm not 100% sure why, but they creep me out and make my skin crawl. However, over the years I've found this is the general consensus among most people, as I have rarely met someone who loves clowns. So my friend and I had just finished watching a movie at the theater that was inside our local mall. The movie ran late and probably finished at around 10 p.m. The mall closed at 9 p.m., so it was dark and all the stores had their gates down, and had a spooky enough feel about it. The doors were not locked from the inside, so we walked through the mall to the other side, which had doors closer to the trail we took to walk back home. Nothing was out of the ordinary about all of this until we got to our exit. Now, since this was the early 2000s, the mall still had payphones, and there was a little foyer area. Don't know what else to call it, so there was one set of doors, then the foyer with the payphones, then a second set of doors to the outside. We opened the first set of doors, and sitting in there was a fully dressed clown. I'm talking big, red, floppy shoes, comically oversized pants, stupid red nose, and garish face paint. This man is the awful costume. The man in the costume was middle-aged, probably in his 50s. He was not on the phone. He was just hanging out in there. We hurry past him as I'm breaking out into a cold sweat and go through the double doors to the parking lot, and he follows us. I'm about to pass out and die at this point, since him just being a clown was creepy enough, but now that he is also a middle-aged man following two 14-year-old girls outside adds a whole other element. He's calling out behind us and we are ignoring him. He continues to try to get our attention and we start picking up speed. As he gets closer, I try to listen to what he's saying, and he's literally just talking nonsense. I catch a phrase here, and there's one of the things I can make out is him talking about how it's a full moon, and look how big it is, but he's talking to us, not himself. We make it to the other end of the parking lot, but this is the part where we head into the woods to cut through a trail to head home, so I definitely didn't want this man following us into the woods. We made some sharp turns and hid behind a car, and after a while we lost sight of him, and hopefully he had lost sight of us, and we hauled ass into the woods. Thankfully we escaped unscathed, except for that creepy memory. Guys, if you're wondering what I do in my spare time, besides gaming, hitting the gym, nursing, that story was about me. All right, Emily here. She jumped on the massive dono train as well. Thank you, Emily. Get you a nice spooky story going here. In the summer of 2011, when I was in my early 20s and traveling around Europe, I decided to do a short course in London for a couple of weeks. Because it was outside of semester, the university student residents were mostly empty, so summer school students could rent cheap rooms on a short-term basis. I was staying in one of those residences in what I now realize was not a great area, close to King's Cross train station. The residence had tall gates, security cameras at the entrance, and a 24-hour security desk, so at first I felt quite safe there. However, the building was at the end of a dead-end road off a quiet side street, which itself was off a main road leading from the station. Every so often, I would cross paths with someone else in the kitchen or courtyard, but for the most part, the place was deserted. One night, I had been catching up with a friend on the other side of the city, so by the time I had made it back to King's Cross, it was past midnight. As I started walking down the main street, I could feel someone a few steps behind me. At that point, there was still plenty of other people about, so I'm not sure what made me notice him at first. I think it might have been that he was walking at the exact same pace as me, so he stayed the exact same distance behind me long enough for it to feel odd. So I did what all young women are taught to do. First, I sped up, not enough to draw attention, just enough to compare his speed. He sped up too. Then I slowed back down. He slowed down at the same time. I crossed to the other side of the street. He crossed too. So when I reached a 24-hour convenience store, I ducked in and pretended to look at the drinks up the back for a few minutes. When I poked my head out of the store and looked around, the man was gone. I thought about calling a taxi, but I could see the side street a block up the road and knew the dead-end road was just beyond it. So I set off, walking fast and scanning everyone I saw. I crossed that last block on the main street without incident, but when I had made it halfway down the quiet side street, suddenly he was behind me again. I now understand the true meaning of feeling like someone has appeared out of nowhere. I had checked around me before leaving the store and before turning down the side street. I still don't understand how he managed it, but he was there. I felt a shock of adrenaline run through me, and I remember thinking very clearly that I had two options. Get back to the main street where I knew there was people still around, or rush forward to the residence where I knew that there was a security guard. I chose the latter. I didn't start running because I was afraid that that would provoke him, but I was sort of hobbling between a power walk and a jog. That seems absurd now, as I turned the corner into the dead-end road, where I could see the security guard's office only a few meters away. The man caught up to me. He grabbed my elbow, not particularly hard, but
firmly enough that I had to stop. He started to ask me questions. Do you know where the bus to... And then he trailed off. He couldn't even finish his fake sentence. It was 12:30 at night, completely dark in a poorly lit residential street, and he was wearing sunglasses. To this day, I shudder whenever I think about that. I don't know how I was able to yank my arm away from him, but I got free and bolted to the security office where the guard was surprised to see me. I didn't explain myself very well. I know now we should have called the police, but I was still processing what had happened, and I just asked if he could walk me back to my room. Usually this would actually involve leaving the office through the same, now locked door and heading through a different entrance at the dead end itself, but I didn't want to go back out to the street. A few minutes had passed by this stage, but I asked the guard to check the footage from the security camera. The man was still standing in the street, in the dark, a few steps from the door. The guard took me a more complicated way around the back of the residence to my room. Perhaps he called the police afterwards, but I never heard anything. I don't think I really registered what a close call I've had until I casually told the story to my psychologist, who was horrified. She told me later that she couldn't stop thinking about the situation for days, and now, anonymously and with my permission, she tells the story to a lot of her other clients. My instincts told me something was off from the very start, and now we tell the story to encourage other people to trust their instincts. I normally wouldn't discuss things like this online, but I just discovered this, and I'm doing so here for the same reason. Stay safe, my friends.
Emily, yeah, absolutely. All right. Emily, yeah, Emily, I think I just read your story that from your donation from earlier. So we had just gotten to that, so it was perfect timing. I don't know if you're able to rewind or not, but yeah, welcome back. Clarissa Gundy's here. What's up? Good to see you. Welcome to the party.
This encounter just happened to me about an hour ago. It really made me nervous, and I wanted to share. I was on FaceTime with my boyfriend, and we were chatting about how each of our days had gone, and I get a call, so I say, "Hey babe, I'm getting a phone call. Let me call you back." The contact information for the call said no caller ID, but I answered it anyway and said hello a few times before a voice that I didn't recognize answered and said, "Are you deaf? Are you deaf in one ear?" Which really freaked me out because I am, and it's a very specific thing I don't really share with the world. Only my close friends know. So I said, "Yeah, why? Who are you?" And the caller replies, "Just wondering. Love you." And then they just hung up. I called my boyfriend back, and it made him really nervous too, and neither of us had any idea who it could be, but we're both really anxious about the whole thing. The whole thing just made me super uncomfortable and scared because I don't know how the person would know that about me or how they got my phone number. I'm really shaken up. Thanks for listening to my encounter. If I get another call, I'll be sure to make another post with the same title. Make an update. Hopefully I never get another call from this creepy phone call person.
Thank you, Chavista, for your donation. This next one is for Alex here.
This story just happened yesterday. So I was on my way back home from the city center at about 9 to 10 p.m. and I had a sandwich with me. I have to take this bus to get home with maybe 16 stops until it's mine, which is not a busy stop. Usually only me and sometimes one more person gets off there. I got on the bus at the back door, and the minute I sat down, this drunk guy comes to me and asks if I speak Hungarian. There are relatively a lot of beggars around here, so I'm not surprised. I say no, which is a lie, so I avoid further conversation. He then starts speaking to me in English and says I could give him some money for food. I say no, I haven't got any Hungarian currency on me right now. Again, a lie because I just wanted to eat my sandwich. This guy then proceeds to signal me to give him a piece of my sandwich and almost breaks a piece of my sandwich. So I say to him, "Sorry, dude, no offense, but I just want to eat my sandwich." At first he seemed pretty chill about it, but this is when it gets interesting. He sits back on his seat, 3 seats behind me, and I notice he's not alone. He is with 2 equally drunk gentlemen. The bus now closes its doors and starts. As I'm eating my sandwich, I hear these guys talking shit about me in Hungarian, assuming I don't understand. Things like, "Man, this dickhead won't give me a piece of his sandwich, what a prick. Man, I would bash his head with a glass, I'm so angry." I hear them agree on getting down at my stop so they can beat me up. I never had to deal with a situation like this, so I start to think and come to the conclusion that my best option is to get down at my stop and run home. Not on the usual route. Like hell, 'cause I can easily outrun 3 30-year-old drunk guys. Meanwhile, 'cause I'm focused on what to do, I don't touch my sandwich, maybe 1/4 of it remaining. This got them even angrier. "Hey man, he didn't even finish his sandwich. I bet he gets home and throws it in the trash." Then one of them said he'd murdered someone in his dream. The other one says he dreamt the same thing too, and this is not a coincidence. I'm there like surely they aren't that barbaric of assholes, but I was wrong. I hear them discussing my height, weight, and buffness, and agree they can take me easy 3-on-1. At this point, I'm sweating and thinking about other options, causing me to stop, because my stop is coming up. We're headed into the suburbs. The bus is starting to get empty. Then I realize I can pretend that I get off somewhere and hope they get off, so I decide to do that. At the last relatively busy stop before I stop, I stood up and went to the front door where 4 people stood waiting to get off. The bus stops and I start to go towards the door, but stop when they can't see me. Surprise, surprise, they get off. The guy starts walking to my door calmly because there were other people at the stop, but when he's got to my door, luckily it closed. I checked if anyone had got off with me at my stop, though. I think this could have gone so much, much worse, and I was lucky to get the best case scenario in this situation.
The Bass Kicker 88 with the 2 ducks says, "I always enjoy your content. Keep it up, man." Thank you so much, Bass Kicker. Appreciate that. "I would marry you for your voice, but in all seriousness, I've been having trouble sleeping. My mom passed, and your video is the only thing that helps relax my mind so I can rest, so thank you." Absolutely, yeah. I'm really sorry to hear that, but I'm really happy that that my voice is able to help you guys in tough situations like these, and I really hope things go well. And I do appreciate that you guys are so positive with one another and supportive, and I think that's part of the reason I sort of made my way to the ASMR community, because that community is all about positivity and, kind of sticking together as a community. So I hope that I'll be able to bring some more of that into the ASMR community. Cashy says it's unfair that I sound even hotter when I'm sick. Isn't it funny? People do always sound different when they're sick, and it's usually kind of cool. I live in a medium-sized city with public transportation, so I don't drive. Unfortunately, the buses stop at 8, so when I work in the evening, I have to walk home. Now, I've legit been harassed so many times I've lost count. Lots of "hey baby, wanna ride" crap. Usually a no thank you will suffice, especially as I make it point to walk with my phone and I would pretend I'm talking to someone if the situation merits it. Only once have I ever felt afraid for my own safety. It was late. I'd gotten off at 10:30 and I was on my way home. Sometimes my then boyfriend would come and meet me, but that night he didn't, probably because he was out cold, and it was cold outside. I had my phone as usual and was walking fast. Anyway, this car pulls up and starts keeping pace with me. There were 3 guys in it. One called me baby, which I hate, and asked me if I want to ride. I thanked them, but I declined. Usually at this point they go on about their business. Not these guys. They went from "hey baby" to "fuck you bitch" in a split second. Luckily, or so I thought, I had reached the point in my walk home where I could cut through a couple of lawns and get out of their sight while still headed in the right direction.
As I turned, they were still yelling at me, hollering for me to come back. I kept walking, then heard a sound that made the hair stand up on the back of my neck, the sound of a car door closing behind me. When I looked back, both of the passengers were out of the car. I've only heard one door close because the door to the back seat was gaping open. Both passengers started in my direction. I took off running. I'm tall and have long legs, so I'm fast, thank God. I ran around the house that went with the lawn I'd been planning to cut across and started pounding on the door. They kept coming. I started yelling for help, but no one came. I ended up running again to the next house where I pounded on that door. This time the lights in the house started coming on. I kept banging and yelling for help, and the lights started coming on in the house to either side of me. At this point, my would-be abductors decided this discretion was the better part of valor and returned to their car. One of the houses I knocked at insisted on calling the police. They came and took a report, but there really wasn't anything they could do. One officer did give me a ride home, though. I think he felt bad because I was so shaken up. The scariest part of it to me is that I don't know if I'd recognize those guys if I saw them again. Okay, this is epic, Ben Shapiro. Thank you, Static, for your donation. I hope you enjoyed that story. We're going on to Vinny here, as we are in the kind of last half-hour countdown till release of the new video. I have uploaded it so that it doesn't come out on scheduled release, but it will. I'll be able to just kind of release it as soon as this stream has completed, but we'll try to still get it done here in time. Yes, Miss Cutie Pie, I'm glad that you were able to make it as well, and work did not get in the way. And yes, Baker, we've got a new vid today. We're going to be talking about the new podcast here. Let me actually get that link real quick. We can put that back up. So the channel now has a podcast, which is exciting, where its link is now in the chat. But the podcast essentially is like videos from before, or rather videos from that week, all in one kind of larger compilation. And a larger compilation. So it's 3 hours of content, all kind of brought together in one podcast format, and that should hopefully assist a lot of people. That have dealt with issues on data, because I know anytime I used my YouTube app and one video just rips into your data, it's ridiculous. And also, yeah, guys, if you have stories, be sure to email it to letsreadsubmissions@gmail.com or send it into our Let's Read Official on Reddit. So it sounds like I just took a hit. Hey, if it helps me sickness. Whoa, guys, it's time to read some stories. I'm moving to another city to start a summer internship during my first year of university. After looking at a few places, I decided to go for an international flat share with other people around my age. I was sharing a flat with 5 other people from all over the world. Everyone seemed pretty nice at first. There was this one guy, though, who was a little off. He was over 6 feet and quite overweight. Seemed at first like a gentle giant, but that opinion quickly changed. Things started to get weird when the gentle giant would be in the kitchen every single night when I got home from work, and he would just sit and watch me have dinner. It went from just watching to then buying me cakes every day. I would always reject them, but he would insist and put them in the fridge for later. After a while, he told me he thought I had lost weight and wanted me to look as perfect as I was when I viewed the flat. First red flag. I started to come home from work later and later to try and avoid him. He would always wait for me in the kitchen. He would make conversation about his home country, Pakistan, speaking about how the town he was from was badly bombed. When I told him I was sorry he had to go through that, he responded with some pretty creepy terrorist sympathizing comments. Second red flag. One evening, I came home and he was on Skype with his family. Turns out his mother was trying to get him to agree on a bribe for his arranged marriage, but he was protesting against all of them. The following day, he came to me and said he told his mother he had found a bride in the UK, and it was me. He wanted me to convert to Islam and be his wife. I obviously rejected that offer and told him I was absolutely not interested. Cue the stalking. He would mysteriously be outside my internship as I was finishing. In the supermarket at the same time as me, on the same bus in the morning. We worked on opposite sides of the city. I moved out of the flat a little bit after all of this and went back home, hundreds of miles away, feeling very glad to be away from him. But that wasn't the end. I was bombarded by creepy messages every day asking how I was and where I was, telling me he loved me and wanted to be with me forever. I ignored every single message from him until one day he sent me a picture of himself next to a road sign pretty close to my city. This went on for a few days, sending pictures of landmarks. I was completely freaked out, feeling pretty certain this guy was going to hunt me down and make me his wife. After another string of abusive messages, my friend replies to him pretending to be my boyfriend and that he should leave me alone. The gentle giant responds with, "I will ruin both of your lives. I will give you bloody dickhead and bloody asshole. I will smash your back doors in." Lovely. The messages continue like this for a few days before I finally blocked his number. I got phone calls and texts from random numbers for weeks after that, still claiming to be near my city and knowing where I was. I blocked each number and then things suddenly went silent. I didn't hear anything from him for a solid year before the messages picked up again, then stopped as randomly as they started. This is now 5 years on, and I still get messages out of the blue about being in love with me from a random number, and Facebook accounts saying it's him. That guy sounds pretty chill. The real question is, guys, do you think saying, I will give you bloody dickhead and bloody asshole is like a solid, like, Tinder pickup line, or maybe not so much? Vinny, thank you so much for your donation. Reddish Fox here with hers. This happened about 25 years ago. I was in the 5th grade. We lived in a small, safe community just outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, so it wasn't unusual for kids to walk home even if it was a good distance. We lived approximately 2 miles from the school. Normally, my younger brother walked with me, but on this day, he stayed home because he was sick. So I'm walking about to turn on this street that is a hill when I see this gold Cadillac Eldorado coming down towards. I'm sure of the car because my grandfather had the same one, but in a different color. The man pulls the car over next to me. Stupid me stops to see what the creeper wants. He asks which way I'm going, and I, being naive, point up the hill. He asks if I want a ride. I say no. He just says okay and pulls away and turns left onto the main road. At this point, I walk a bit and realize something's not right, so I sneak around the back of the houses and continue up the hill. I stop at the last house and peek down the road, and who do I see? Mr. Creeper. I have no choice but to sit and wait. After what seemed like forever, he drives off. I quickly cross the street and cut across the railroad tracks and through 2 baseball fields and make it home. For some reason, I didn't tell my parents, but for the next week, I took another route home without incident. So I'm feeling safer and decide the next day to take my usual route home. I get to the top of the hill again, and guess who's there? I quickly grab my brother and take the shortcut through the fields home. I'm not sure if he saw us. The car was facing away. I'm 100% positive it was the same car, and this time I immediately tell my dad when he got home. Police are called, Mom makes phone calls to the neighbors, and we are no longer allowed to walk home. The neighborhood parents rotated in taking and picking us up. I'm not sure if anything else ever came of it. Thankfully, it never happened again. To this day, I remember that man's face and will until I die. Whenever I hear of a child being kidnapped, it makes me realize I was lucky. It could have been me on the news.
All right, thank you, Reddish Fox, for your donation here. Sorry if I'm kind of blasting through these guys. I just want to make sure we have enough time before we head off into today's video. Abby wanted to hear a Ouija board story. Funny stories, yeah. Yeah, I remember, yeah, with, what's his name, Sea Mustard. Those were pretty hilarious. It's funny whenever I would post those, it would get like a 50-50 like to dislike ratio kind of thing. I collect Ouija boards. I know how strange this sounds. Most people collect stamps, coins, vinyls, posters, and the like. I should probably preface this by saying I have pretty extensive knowledge of the paranormal. I've been having experience with it since I was a child. This led me to delve into the world of paranormal investigation in my teens and early 20s, which coincided with my beginnings to collect the boards. Since then, I have amassed quite a collection, but there is one that I refuse to even keep in my house. I'll call it the Salem board. I used to do special effects makeup for films, and I was in Salem, Massachusetts. For a job, as you have probably gathered, I am a lover of the strange, unusual, and all things creepy, so I was thrilled by this opportunity. I had gotten into town a few days before filming began, so I could prep, but also so I could do a little sightseeing. I was wandering through some of the shops and happened to walk into one that had a pretty large collection of Ouija boards. Some were vintage, some were etched glass, and some were burned wood. At the back of the shop there was a locked display case which immediately caught my eye. Alone on the top shelf was a board that looked as though it was the cross-section of a tree stump. It had the usual markings of a Ouija board, but they looked to be hand-carved into the wood. It was also covered with runes. I went to the guy behind the counter and asked how much it was. "It's not for sale," he said quietly. "Why not?" I asked. He looked back at the cabinet and then back at me. "That board is made from a tree that was used to hang witches during the Salem witch trials." I looked at him skeptically. That was a pretty tall claim. I really did want the board, though. It would look great in my collection and be a cool conversation piece. "Are you sure you don't want to sell it?" Once again, he looked between me and the cabinet. $150. Cash. No returns. I handed him the money, and he walked to the cabinet to unlock it. He must have noticed the confused look on my face when he handed me the board. "It doesn't come with a planchette. This board was not exactly meant to be used." I wasn't exactly sure how to respond to that, so I just said thanks and left the shop. Fast forward a few months. I'm back home in Seattle in my one-bedroom apartment where I lived alone. I had put the Salem board in a box in my closet since I was waiting on a new display case and didn't really have anywhere else to put it. My closet had 2 sliding doors and a shelf on top of the bar where you would hang clothes. The shelf was actually pretty large, so it accommodated the box with room to spare. I had gone to bed that night and fell asleep with the TV on. I was awoken around 3 a.m. by the sound of someone hitting the closet door. I checked to make sure my ball python Kronos was in his cage, since every time he would get out he would try and get into my closet where the hot water heater was. I saw he was curled up under his log and cautiously opened the closet door to see the box had fallen off the shelf and was now resting against the door. I was puzzled at this, but thought in my sleepiness that I just didn't push it back far enough. I pushed the box back and went back to sleep. About 30 minutes later I heard another noise from my closet, but this time it was much louder. When I opened my eyes, I could see that one of the closet doors had been pushed outwards. The box had fallen off the shelf again, but this time had done it with so much force that it was wedged between my clothes and the door. At this point, I was becoming a bit concerned. Instead of putting the box back on the shelf, I placed it on the floor of my closet and shut the door. When I woke up in the morning, I turned over to grab my phone off the nightstand and saw my closet door wide open. The box had been pushed out into the middle of the room. At this point, I became concerned. This was an object with a lot of emotion attached to it,
a lot of anger and a lot of pain and suffering. I thought it best to keep it in a box and put the box in my storage unit. A few years go by and my mom keeps bugging me to clean out some things from the unit since she needed some space for her stuff. It was in the middle of summer and the storage unit was sweltering. I was going through boxes, aimlessly tossing things into piles while I came across the box. The room was suddenly freezing. I took the lid off and looked down. The Salem board was sitting on top of several other Ouija boards I had acquired over the years. They had all been cracked in half down the middle. All of them, except the Salem board. I stared into the box, trying to comprehend what I was looking at. These boards looked like someone had broken them over their knee. Surely not the result of a box being dropped or jostled. I removed the board from the box and placed it in the wooden chest I had acquired from my great-grandmother, who had considered herself to be a witch. It remains in that box to this day. I believe there are forces in this world that we will never understand. I am sure you are wondering why I didn't get rid of the board. In a way, I feel tied to it. It's called to me, and I answered. I consider myself its keeper. As long as it's with me, everyone else is safe from whoever or whatever is attached to it.
Brendan Golden with the $20 says, "Hey, let's read. It's been a great day, and joining your live reading is the whipped topping on the pie. No requests, just happy to be here. Hope you've had a great week." This has been a great week, Brenda. Sorry, I called you Brendan earlier. Sorry. Brenda, thank you, Brenda, for that. Yeah, it's been a great day and a great week here. Just kind of overcoming this sickness, but we are getting better each moment. Can you read the poem, "I Knew a Woman," as your very last read? Thank you, from Reddish Fox. Thank you, Reddish Fox, for the $5. Appreciate that. Sure, can do that, absolutely. I Knew a Woman poem. All right, so thank you for Abby for the request for the Ouija board paranormal story. And thank you guys for those donations there. It's very kind of you. What type of pie is my favorite? I do like pumpkin pie, but there's so many good types. Stalker story here. Dutch apple pie. I cracked my back here. All right. For some context, I work 12-hour shifts at work and often get a little impatient on my drives home with having a 35 to 45-minute commute and rushing to get back to my dog and still have enough time to sleep before my next shift. This evening, I was pulling into my neighborhood behind another car and noticed that they were going 5 under the speed limit. I decided to go ahead and pass them since my house was just right up the road and we have lots of street parking, so I figured they might be going slow to stop and park. I speed up to maybe slightly above the speed limit to get around, and the car immediately starts trying to play chicken with me and cuts me off, which to my knowledge is illegal. I eventually just do a little maneuver and get around and slow back down closer to the speed limit. From this point, the car starts tailing mine, but I figured he was probably just annoyed and would get over it and move on after I turned onto my street or he turns onto his. Little did I know, he had other plans. I start to get this horrible sinking feeling in my stomach and notice he decided to turn onto my street with me. I know all of the rules of keep driving if you're followed and call the cops, but I was hoping maybe he just lived on my street and there was really nowhere to go from where I was without the potential for him to block me in somewhere, and my gut feeling was to get somewhere safe ASAP. So I pulled into my driveway. He immediately pulls in behind me and gets out to walk towards me. I'm a single girl living with my other single girls and 2 small dogs, so I know I'm basically a walking target in terms of safety concerns, and I always keep a 3-inch knife in my car,
Nothing too protective, but makes me feel safe enough. I go ahead and grab it and get out and decide to try to defuse the situation by asking him to leave. Instead, he crosses his arms and asks me why I'm in such a hurry. I'm not super familiar with self-defense laws, but I didn't want to actually open the knife yet and risk getting in trouble for threatening someone, and decided just to inform him he needs to leave immediately and that I have a knife. In case he wanted to try something, I wanted to be clear he was trespassing, and I was armed. We have a few minutes of back and forth where he is yelling and getting closer and threatening, and I'm trying to keep my shit together and stay calm, while telling him to get away from my home and backing slowly towards the house, where I also noticed my roommate is home. I pulled the knife into view, and he backed away a bit and decided to get back into his car at this point. He starts yelling out his street number as he takes off and tells me to come to his street. Turns out he lives 5 streets ahead of me. Needless to say, I was extremely shaken up and did end up having police and neighborhood security out to take down a report and have our neighborhood monitored for the evening. And all that's left to do is have a beer and sleep with one eye open to keep an eye out for this car stalker. Thank you, Isabella, for that request. I hope that was stalkerish enough for you. Never thought I would say that sentence. Hopefully that was stalkerish enough for you, sweetheart. All right, and up next is Tule with a choice. Absolutely. I was visiting my siblings in a quiet corner of a major city. We were partying, going out, having fun. It was a good night. Around 3 a.m. we were at one brother's, Josh's apartment, and my other brother, Dennis, and I decided to walk to a 24-hour burger joint because we were hungry and not tired. I was familiar with the area and missed walking around there and felt pretty safe there, especially with Dennis, who is fearless and good with people. We had eaten THC edibles prior to walking around, which I had never done before. Everything's good until about halfway to our destination. I see this guy talking to himself across the street at a bus stop. He's saying, "I'm not crazy. Y'all motherfuckers are the one who are crazy." He's repeating himself and talking loudly. We don't mention it. Dennis is so depressed due to personal issues, I don't even think he noticed or cared, but my spidey sense definitely perked up. Later down the road, we sit on a picnic table to have a smoke and a rest. Before too long, this unfortunate-looking young white guy comes walking our way. I quickly realize it's the guy from the bus stop. He's carrying a little white blanket. He strikes up a convo with us, breaking the ice by asking, "Are you guys homeless?" He tells us he was discharged from the mental health facility and had nowhere to go. He says he's from Cali and was the DJ from the movie Project X, aka DJ X. I humor him politely, but kinda standoffishly because he's clearly a couple nuggets short of a Happy Meal. Plus I ate the edible earlier and his nonsense talk is freaking me out. I get up to continue to the burger place and the guy just starts following us like we're buddies now. I'm real wary, but Dennis isn't concerned at all. He's really not doing well emotionally and just seems kinda numb. We walk past a steak knife on the ground and I'm just imagining this guy grabbing it and stabbing me. We get to the burger place and he follows us in. Keep in mind I'm in a weird state and didn't think of a good way to get him to bugger off. I was real scared this guy was really dangerous. I stepped away for a second to call Josh, who was sleeping, and tell him a weirdo is following us. Please come get us. He's pissed at me for waking him up, but he's a good brother, so he agrees to drive down. Dennis finishes his meal. He's the only one who ate, and I inform him that Josh is coming to get us. DJ X is sitting with us, totally uninvited. We get up and walk outside, and DJ X follows. He's standing with us, and I'm worried he wants to go with us, but I know Josh will tell him to frick off. I finally muster up the courage to tell him off as nicely as I can, but firmly. I'm just like, "All right, man, we're gonna go. See you later," and shook his hand, and he walked away, surprisingly. It turned out to be much easier than my paranoid mind was making out to be. Josh came and picked us up, real mad, and didn't even believe me that this weirdo was shadowing us. Eventually I convinced him. Turns out DJ X had pickpocketed Dennis and stolen a cigar from him. Definitely not the coolest or scariest story I've read on here, but It was scary enough for me. In retrospect, I think the guy meant no harm and just had nothing better to do, but at the time I had no idea what was going on in his head. I was in a highly paranoid state, and there was a freaking knife on the ground which seemed like a terrible omen. Pickpocketed, yikes. I have never been pickpocketed that I know of. Have you guys ever been pickpocketed by chance? That would be kind of scary. Alright, Bianca wanted to hear a little bit of a Bigfoot story. Last year I had a very strange experience in National Forest out in California. I was by myself on a road trip with my dog, and I was driving pretty far into Mendocino National Forest. I like to camp in National Forest because it's isolated so my dog can roam and they're free of charge. A trade-off for sketchy, rough drives into parks sometimes and lack of service or assistance. Oh, yes, Surreal Lane. You can submit a subscriber story by, going to the Reddit, our Let's Read Official, or Let's Read Submissions at gmail.com email. I was driving up this dirt road kind of curling up a mountain around maybe 5 p.m. It was very nice out, sunny and warm with a slight breeze. Nothing serious happened, but I felt extremely uncomfortable driving into the area, and that feeling did not let up. Driving up the mountain, I feel like I shouldn't stay there, and I even texted my boyfriend about it for as long as I could before my phone completely lost service. I was looking for a sign of another person, having been around the area lately, but didn't see anything. I pulled over and got out of my car with my dog to look over the edge and notice a dead squirrel and some broken glass mixed in with the dirt and gravel road. Yuka, my dog, starts to growl slightly. She is vocal, but I've almost only ever seen or heard her growl at or with other dogs. I didn't see her growl at a possum once, so it could be something she smelled maybe. This place continued to make me feel quite on edge, but I pride myself in being an independent traveler and backpacker, so I decided to continue at least a bit further with my grumbling pup to see if I could find a good place to camp. I continued to notice more dead animals. Keep in mind, no one is going to be going more than 5 to 10 miles per hour up this thing, and that's if there's anyone even there. I hear men's voices. They sound close, and I think I should call out to them, so I stop my car, but then kind of freeze up and feel like I shouldn't. I can't really make out what they're saying. I don't see any sign of people anywhere, and I get back in my car and continue to slowly drive forward, cautiously looking for where the voices would be coming from. I've never ran into other people in a national park or forest when I've gone this deep in. The unsettling feeling grows about the voices, which have sort of come and gone a few times, and I give up and begin to turn my car around. I honestly don't remember how Yuka was acting on the way down. I was scared and focused on getting out of there. I just distinctly remember being surprised at her grumbling when we were standing outside of my car. Kind of dangerously quickly, I went back down the mountain not seeing any sign of anyone. I decided to spring for luxury and get a hotel for the night. I figured I was just fine. Huge and open spaces can be intimidating, I told myself, and the voices could have been echoing from somewhere far off, and they just sounded close. Animals die, glass gets broken, nothing happened, cool. But I remember this place, it sticks with me. Whenever I'm watching scary movies, if I'm walking my dog in the woods at night, nothing compares to the feeling I had driving up that mountain, and it's honestly kind of interesting to me as well as frightening. I recently happened across some information as well as some Native American lore that made me feel extremely uneasy. Fast forward a year, I've mentioned this place to a few people, and the haunting vibes it gave me, but nothing much more. I googled the national park once and didn't see anything, but didn't look much either. I like scary movies and things of that nature, hence my fascination in this little event, so my boyfriend and I were coming up on finishing our road trip just yesterday. We were in Wyoming for a wedding. There were only 2 to 3 hours left, and the sun had set, so we decided to listen to some scary podcasts and YouTube videos. We went from the No Sleep podcast to the X-Files and ended up on True Stories, video dealing with Native American lore. I'm half paying attention, petting my dog, playing Pokemon on an emulator, and I hear the narrator mention Wendigos. Very briefly, they say what they are and casually mentions they can mimic voices. I mean it when I say that the most horrible chills I have ever had in my life crawl down my spine, and I stare at my boyfriend and ask him if he can remember that national forest I was freaked out about last year. He says he does and reminds me that he texted me I was probably close to a Wendigo. I remember him saying that and didn't know much about their lore and thought he was just being funny, like, yeah, Bigfoot is probably stalking you or some other dad joke. And he was like, no. I was mostly joking, but I said it specifically because you said you were hearing voices and that you couldn't find a trace of. I felt strange as fuck, and I start Googling Wendigos and Bigfoots. They are allegedly able to mimic human voices, and they would live in that sort of area. It all matched up. Obviously, there are a ton of questionable info out there, but I tried to find more reputable websites and authentic experiences. I then specifically looked up missing persons in that area, and the first headline that catches my eye is another family gone missing in Mendocino. And I went through different websites and news articles of people going missing, but they're all a little hidden underneath national park websites and pictures of trees. I remember looking up the forest about a year ago and didn't see anything and realized these stories didn't seem to be talked about much, which also piqued my intuition. It was stated that there was well over 100 people in the past 8 years that have gone missing and have not been found, on top of many of which were found dead. It just has my intuition super spiked. Remembering how unsafe I felt and how much I wanted to get out of there terrifies me, and I felt so uneasy about what I was hearing and do to this day. My dog and I are very close. She was a stray that started following me one day, and I ended up bringing her home from Costa Rica, so her little growls along the way make me feel like there was something wrong. Even though it was just a short telling video, those stories originate from somewhere. I have done a lot of solo traveling both in and out of the country, and I have never had such a bad feeling. On top of seeing an unnecessary amount of dead animals in a national forest, which just seems strange. I don't think I'll be doing more solo traveling unless it's around civilization. Does anyone know about authentic Native American lore, or has anyone else had any kind of inexplicable experience like this? Extra points if you've had bad fives in Mendocino National Forest from a possible Wendigo or Bigfoot. Anybody been to that area? Did I even pronounce that area right? Oh man. So we are getting close to here, but thankfully, yeah, Bianca, sorry that wasn't super specifically Bigfooted of a story, but I hope you enjoyed that. And I'm curious if, since you, I believe, are Lucy, see you later. Catch you on the flip. But I know you're from the California area, so let me know if you've ever been to that place out there. That sounds pretty spooky. Okay. Sorry if I have to kind of move a little bit fast here, guys. I do appreciate everyone's donations and everything they got, or everything they've given, and just the support throughout this stream has been amazing. So I recently moved to a smaller town, about 15,000 people, and the next nearest bigger town at least 100 miles away. I moved here for work, never having heard of or been here before that. Ever since I got here, I can say now safely over 30 people would stare at me, not sure what to say, visibly confused after asking the same question. Do I know you? They all will look at me in a very convinced way that they do, but are asking to place me from where? It has been happening since day one, and now it's just absurd. So I'm posting this story hoping to find answers at this point. It feels almost paranormal. Why would so many from a part of the country I've never been to be so certain that they've seen me before? I ask where they saw me before, and they say somewhere around town, as if anticipating me to mention where I fill in the blank, and I've got nothing. I don't work with the public area or in the public sector, so the likelihood of them seeing me there passing by somehow is slim. I don't go out, so no one would have really had any way of seeing me or talking to me, since I otherwise keep to myself.
Thank you, Fire Hunter, for the donation. I'm sorry that was kind of had to be a little bit shorter there, but I do appreciate that. Hopefully we can definitely get to you again here going forward on another stream. Catherine had a poem that I'm going to read. We got 2 poems here to finish out the stream, so that'll be a little bit different.
What need you, being come to sense, but fumble in a greasy till, and add the halfpence to the pence, and prayer to the shivering prayer, until you have dried the marrow from the bone? For men were born to pray and save. Romantic Ireland's dead and gone. It's with O'Leary in the grave. Yet they were of a different kind, the names that stilled your childish play. They have gone about the world like wind, but little time had they to pray. For whom the hangman's rope was spun, and what, God help us, could they save? Romantic Ireland's dead and gone. It's with O'Leary in the grave. Was it for this wild geese spread the grey wing upon every tide? For this that all that blood was shed? For this Edward Fitzgerald died? And Robert Emmet and Wolfe Tone, all that delirium of the brave? Romantic Ireland's dead and gone. It's with O'Leary in the grave. Yet could we turn the years again, and call those exiles as they were, and all their loneliness and pain, you'd cry some woman's yellow hair has maddened every mother's son. They weighed so lightly what they gave, but let them be, they're dead and gone. They're with O'Leary in the grave.
I'm not sure if I had the pacing down on that poem or not, but thank you, Catherine, for the donation. Hope you enjoyed that. And that is an interesting poem. I like old Irish stuff. I'd like to go to Ireland sometime. Reddish Fox here with the final poem of the night. I Knew a Woman poem. By Theodore Rothke. Rothke.
I knew a woman lovely in her bones. When small birds sighed, she would sigh back at them. Ah, when she moved more ways than one. The shapes a bright container can contain. Of her voice, of her choice virtues, only God should speak, or English poets who grew up on Greek. I'd have them sing in chorus, cheek to cheek. How well her wishes went, she stroked my chin. She taught me turn and counter-turn and stand. She taught me touch, that undulant white skin. I nibbled meekly from her proffered hand. She was the sickle, I, poor I, the rake, coming behind her for her pretty sake. But what prodigious mowing we did make! Love's like a gander and adores a goose. Her full lips pursed, the errant note to seize. She played it quick, she played it light and loose. My eyes, they dazzled at her flowing knees. Her several parts could keep a pure repose, or one hip quiver with a mobile nose. She moved in circles, and those circles moved. Let seeds be grass, and grass turn into hay. I'm a martyr to emotion not my own. What's freedom for, to know eternity? I swear she cast a shadow white as stone. But who would count eternity in days? These old bones live to learn her wanton ways. I measure time by how a body sways.
My goodness, that was cool. I actually like that. I like poems about dancing. It's pretty awesome. Makes you want to write a poem. Oh, Lord. Well, we have come to a completion here, and it has been an amazing stream. You guys were crazy, crazy, generous, and kind. But the exciting part is that you don't have to. We don't have to part ways yet. My disembodied voice will now exist next to you in the newest video that's about to release once the stream is over. At the beginning of that video, I will talk about briefly my new podcast that, if you guys didn't hear, is now out. So I am going to quickly link to that again, and basically those podcasts are going to be compilations of my narrations, but in podcast form, to save your data plan a little bit and have them for long road trips in the day and all that good stuff. They should be like 3 hours each, so that's awesome. 2 to 3 hours each. And yeah, guys, so stay tuned for that to be releasing here in probably about 10 to 15 minutes, probably less. Thanks for everyone who supported the stream. You guys are amazing. Thank you, mods, for hanging out. Remember that these streams will be available on the streams playlist. They won't be listed. They'll be unlisted, but on the streams playlist. So go to the playlist on my channel and find that. The link for the podcast is also down below on this video if you want to check that out. Check out Patreon if you want early access to all future narrations. It's only $1 a month. So that's pretty awesome. And yeah, if you got stories, be sure to submit them to my subreddit, reddit.com/r/Let's Read Official, or you can send it to Let's Read Submissions, and I'll submit it to the subreddit for the subscriber stories and other narrations that are coming out. If you want to grab some Let's Read merch, join the Buttersock cult. You can check the merchandise at shop.spreadshirt.com/Let's Read. That's down below. Also, guys, if you want to join my Discord here, where we can all chat and have a good time and just give each other an old romping, whatever that means, I am linking that right now in the chat, and you guys can join up for that. That's a good time. We all just kind of BS and have a lot of different little rooms in there to submit art or talk about different things and just chat about the channel or each other, and follow me on Twitter, Instagram, which links are down below, to be sure you get to hear about anything new that changes on the channel, and I'll listen to all my stupid, wild ideas as they occur in real time. But yeah, guys, you're welcome for the stream. Thank you guys for joining me and just being ever so kind with everything. I hope you enjoy this new video. It's essentially going to be a big compilation video of stuff, but is what you can expect to see in all future podcasts, and I hope to promote that at least like once a month. So that should be really awesome. Much love, guys, and I'll see you again soon.